Woohoo!
Woohoo! Pyrotechnics.
Hello, everybody.
guys.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
This was supposed to be playing when we came out, but hello. Hello, and welcome to a very special question and answer with the role players.
Oh, it's your very
Role
special
players
voice.
and pizza.
I'm Pizza. We're hanging out tonight.
You're just hanging.
And Airset will be in a bit. And Airset, Azar. And
Which, in fairness, is already a kind of D&D-ish sounding name.
it really is. I mean,
Yep.
I get it confused.
Yeah.
So, yeah, guys, we just wanted to kind of
Shame.
get on, and we're trying some things out. And we just want to hang out with you guys and talk some D&D.
Yeah.
We got the old school D&D players here, have been playing a lot longer than I have, so they know their stuff. I know a bit of stuff, and I can certainly talk about the campaign, the parts I can talk about. And so yeah, so I'm just gonna phase this out a little bit so I can pull up the stream for a moment and get some questions. And as you guys know, Mike, our beloved Mike, is out there. He's in the chat.
Hey, Mike.
We
Mike?
wanted him in the stream tonight, but we didn't have time to figure out how to pull him into the active stream. So we are going to figure that out because we really want him to be able to participate. And Jamie too.
Absolutely.
Jamie is traveling, so she's not available right now. Okay, cool. All right. Well, okay. We got Huntilla.
Hi.
Huntilla?
Yeah, I'm trying to. That might also be Mike. I don't know.
No, that's not Mike.
They said.
But his
this
name-
is also me. I don't know.
Awesome, because his
oh.
name is Michael Hunt.
Oh,
right?
that might be
Yeah,
his
so-
alter ego.
Yes, it's just Mike. So it's just
Mike
it's just us
Oscar,
hanging
but-
out, guys.
All right,
Just
awesome.
us for now.
So yeah, enjoy some pizza.
Yeah. Well,
Scotch,
I'm
scotch. It's time for
very
yeah.
excited to see. Oh yeah, we're missing. I knew something felt
I
like
knew
it was
something
missing.
felt like
we don't
a
have
phantom
scotch.
limb.
Typical LA traffic held us all up. Started late, trying to throw the set together.
Yeah. Thank you, tens of thousands of fans, for just hanging with us as our opening band finished their set. Thank you.
Yeah. So, but we're here and we have some pizza and we want to talk some D&D.
Well, in the meantime, before other people jump in and maybe have a question, maybe
Someone's gonna watch
I'll
this in the
throw one
future.
out there.
Yeah, okay.
Well, actually, hold on a sec.
Oh, yeah.
Killer Panda just started rating us.
Hey,
Good old KP.
Oh my gosh.
Who's
So-
been doing her own stream, and congrats on that, making affiliate.
Dude, no, absolutely, and it's so
That's
fun. We were
fantastic.
hanging out with her. We were watching her play Jedi
Yep.
Fallen Order, and
Did she
super
make
fun.
it through that section? KP?
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, she was crushing it.
Did you choose force jump, force flip?
Force something. That looks. Have you played that game?
I played a little bit of it. It was pretty fun. I was a little surprised, I will say, not necessarily in a bad way, how much platforming it was. Because I'm like, as much as I love games like the Uncharted series,
Oh yeah.
since you're like a treasure hunter, jumping around and shimmying, like, and doing that kind of platforming feels like very appropriate in that kind of game.
Right.
But it kind of felt like they were like, all right, it's Star Wars, but let's find a way to make the controls kind of Uncharted-y.
Oh yeah.
Which again, it's pretty fun, but I was
Yeah.
like, maybe it just happened to be a little stretch of it that I played, because I don't have it, I was playing a buddy's copy, but I was like, I am really having to move around here.
Interesting.
So, I don't know, Killer Panda, let me know your thoughts, or if it is a little more action-oriented, a little less platformy, I might give it a second look.
Yeah, no, it looked pretty fun. I mean,
It looks great.
Visually, it's insane. I mean, just the
I like
the
yeah.
effects of the saber on the baddies and the animals, like cutting the animals in half. I mean,
No,
looked
and that
crazy.
one set piece there, where I don't know who the main character is, comes up in the shipyards and those ties come screaming
Oh, I haven't seen
overhead.
that. I missed that
was
part.
like, wow, this is cool.
You cannot underestimate the power of a lightsaber in a game. I'm
so true.
I'm already
Yeah.
so in from the moment I hear lightsaber that
yeah, it
yeah,
really
I'll
is.
have
It's
to give it another.
Yeah, it's a
So
yeah.
let me change this category to Star
It's a
Wars really
truck.
fast.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I was
All right,
actually
yes.
gonna ask you
So
though,
you're
John.
gonna
Yeah.
D&D, yeah, do it.
So one of the things I've wondered is maybe, and again, obviously you don't want to give any details away to us players who don't know, but
Yeah.
since Anacrally is your own creation, it's your own world, what was the process like of world building? Like, what kind of interesting realizations or challenges came about, or what, were there any surprises? Like, what was that process like?
So that's a great question. And as a screenwriter, I've done a lot of world building before. This was my first. Well, it's my first kind of full epic campaign. We did the test campaign before, and I've done some little one-shots, and I've done a lot of like just improv creation. But when I sat down to do what we call the epic campaign, this show, I immediately had the idea for the ending, and it was unusual. So I had to then reverse engineer how I wanted that to kind of all play out. And then that led to the creation of Anackerley itself and this interesting idea that this whole land had been somehow moved. You guys don't have a lot of details, so I can't go into it, but then I had the land. And then once I had the map, and I literally drew out a map and started filling in the major cities and the major geographic areas and waterways and all of that stuff. And then I started working on cultures and kingdoms, and then the deities came as I was working all of that.
Great.
Like the government types as well?
Yeah, government types, the way their judicial systems worked,
Somewhere
the school
along
systems.
the way, you scribbled Fornuge onto a piece of paper, and it's created grief for us players now.
It's interesting, because Fornuge, I think I had Fornuge either the first deity or the second deity I created.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it was unusual because that came out of something completely different. And so it's really fun. I love world building. And I actually just saw something interesting on Twitter the other day. They were talking about, do you start small and go big, or go big and go small? And I definitely did big to small. And I just work better that way personally, because I feel like once I create the framework, I can fill in all the pieces.
Yeah.
But you guys are both DMs as well. So, Chad, what about you? When you do world building, how do you do it?
Oh, well, it's a great question. For me, some of the games that I've really sunk my teeth into over the years that I was like the DM of, I was playing in settings that had already existed to some degree. Like I've mentioned to you guys before, but for those of you watching on the stream, probably haven't heard that I actually DM'd a long game, which to this day I still do sometimes, in the Dark Sun setting. So, it's very different on almost every conceivable level than traditional D&D. So one of the things that I liked about that and that I embraced about that was like, that now means I can world build in a little bit more freeing way. Like I don't have to stick to the traditional D&D lore, because built into the lore of Athos is this that's the world of Dark Sun. It's like a very Mad Max-ish post-apocalyptic. I had a little piece of pepperoni that just ruined that for me. It's that kind of setting. And so built into the lore of that setting is the idea that tropes are turned on its head. Halflings in Athos are nothing like a halfling you would encounter in. And in fact, many of the races that you would find in like a Forgotten Realms game have been exterminated in this terrible genocide. This is like this war that plays a huge role in the history of Athos. So there's just a lot of fun things you can do with that. When I hear that, I always think I want to honor it. I want to, in the very first session, if you're playing an Athos game, I want to show you a scene or something that says this is different. This race doesn't act like how if you've played D&D before, you might expect. Or where are all of the kobolds? They're gone. And really make it a point to
that's cool
to do that. But then the other cool thing, about world building is finding the right moment maybe in your campaign to be the exception to the rule, where, the Sorcerer King who thought he had killed all the orcs didn't. There's a few that survived, and they're not happy about it.
That's
and
cool.
so I always I guess that's a long way of answering your question. I like to look at any lore that is there because I think it cemented itself as lore in an established setting for a reason.
Oh, absolutely.
Either because it really worked well through the designers making it that way, or the authors who wrote books about it, or whatever the case may be. I like to try and like honor the ideas that are there.
That's cool.
But then at the same time, look for little ways to take that and put your own spin on it and twist it in a way that'll ultimately be like maybe a little surprising or you know, gratifying to the player. But I don't know. For me, that's kind of what it is. It's a juggling act between the expected and the unexpected. And, you know, it really just depends on the setting that you're in. But
no,
that's kind of what I like to do.
I think that's smart.
Yeah.
I mean, that also helps when you take an existing thing like that. You don't have to create everything. Then you just get to play in that world and tweak it to your liking.
I think it can be overwhelming if you are trying to create everything from scratch. Like, you want some familiarity. Even if someone's completely new to D&D, hopefully something about the world that you're playing in relates to the real world that they know or something, you know, because otherwise it's like you just can't find your footing. So I think that's maybe another important lesson I would say that's come out of world building is don't build the world too insanely, you know, crazily different than, because ultimately people are playing it, and if you can connect to something, you know.
That makes sense. And actually, before we hear your answer, Timmy the Spork is on.
Hey
Timmy. Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Hello.
He was asking how much of the setting right now is my creation. So everything except that the first episode we actually started in. Well, it didn't really start in Faerun. We started in the ocean, but they were leaving Faerun. So there is that component that we are somewhere out in the ocean off the southern coast of Faerun. But everything else, everything in Anacroli is all completely my creation. Although Peter and I created the Mendeleal race together, which was awesome.
Yeah. That's really cool. And I don't know, could you guys say anything more about like that race, like having designed your own?
It's tricky. The only thing I can say at this point, they are an elven race. And I think what we've said in the show, they're pretty rare. It's kind of a sub-race of elves.
And they all seem to have some sort of innate psionics.
They do. Yeah.
That much seems pretty clear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But part of also the allure of is, okay, we're creating this new elven sub-race with some new abilities. But part of the Mendeleal, I mean, I guess I can say this, or I'll just say it like this.
I'm like, what are you going to say?
There's a lot that I specifically don't know on purpose.
Yeah.
So that when it gets revealed, it's getting revealed to me too.
Sure.
Because there's a mystery to the Mendeleal themselves about their own innate powers.
Cool.
So.
Yeah, so as you guys will see as we go on in the campaign and as Seville
develops,
learns,
himself,
and interacts with the Edgeguard, he'll learn more about his own race.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to that. I hope you guys are too, because it seems that there is much more to uncover in Anacroli, Mendeleal, and beyond. So
it is a big continent. So I sat down. Yeah. I sketched out the map, and then I sat down with with a map maker. Shin Cartography. So if you don't know her, she's amazing. I just loved her maps that I saw on Instagram, and so we happened to be in Arizona over the holiday break, and I reached out and we met up. And I showed her what I had in mind. We were just talking about it, and eventually we're going to have a full map of the continent. It's just going to be unbelievably gorgeous.
That's going to be great. Yeah.
I'm super excited about that. But I realized kind of in that moment how big this, and because it really is a a lot of people say we have this continent, but you look at it and it's actually, it's a smallish island, with a couple towns. Like, no, this is a continent. You guys could, you could maybe not even see half of it in this whole campaign, depending on which way you go.
Yeah.
So. totally hijacking. Do you want to go back to world building?
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I like the flow. Just whatever comes
Yeah,
up.
whatever comes along. And please, if anybody chimes in with a question, just
let's take their
throw it out
questions
there.
and,
I'll just cut you off.
yeah,
cut us off.
If anybody redirects, we're
So you guys, throw your questions out there. Anything about D&D, anything that if
Yeah.
you want to play, if you haven't played, if you guys have questions about role playing, anything, throw them out there and we'll get to it.
throw it out at us.
So I think
Pizza.
going off of what Chad said, I fell in love with D&D early in the early 80s is when I started. So there's a lot of nostalgia for me from Greyhawk.
Yeah.
And so when I create campaigns, I like to use existing material and create my own storyline in it or augment it. One of my favorites is the Temple of Elemental Evil.
Oh yeah.
And I'm glad they've done it for 5e, but that to me it's like, I want to either be a player in Tomb of Horrors or I want to run it, or I want to have Temple of Elemental Evil and tie it into like Ayuz the Old somehow, and just doing that. And I have a side, just like Chad has Dark Sun. I have my Ravenloft campaign, which Judd is in and out of. Of course, he has greater duties here, but he jumps in and out of. And I love Ravenloft. I love the gothic horror of it. I love the undead, the ghost, just
It's great.
the macabre in there. So, but I like Ravenloft is so massive because you had the Ravenloft Gazette, where it basically the map of the Dread Realms is so wonderful. They have it right now. Oliver Craig on DM's Guild, don't quote me on that, but I think that's correct. He has a lot of revived material in Ravenloft.
Yeah.
That's just fantastic with maps that go beyond, Ravenloft, I guess you could say that's the entire setting, but Barovia is, each Dread Lord is a prisoner in their own making, in their own realm.
Yeah.
So Strahd is just one of them. And it's just a fascinating history of Ravenloft. And I just like Strahd because he's the ultimate just bad dude.
Sure.
And so having him and stuff like that, but I've altered the campaign a lot and have others, it's just part of a larger thing. But I do like to honor, just because I love the material so much, I want to be in it. Running it as a DM is just as satisfying, if not more, as a player. That kind of stuff.
Hey.
I think Azar is made it to set.
Is there a party happening?
Let's draw weapons.
Hey.
Oh, it's just you.
Hi, guys.
Come on
Always
in,
pivot
come
to
on
Star
in. The
Wars.
water's
Welcome,
fine.
Thank you.
Hi.
Star Wars shirt. I'm like trying to keep us off of Star
Let's
Wars.
talk about Star Wars again. We have an excuse. No.
Crazy.
Are we on?
We're
We're
live.
on. We're going. We're talking.
Hi.
Pizza.
Have some pizza.
All
Yeah.
right.
Come on, you
So-
love it.
I was looking at some old episodes, and there was this one episode where I literally, in real time, ate an entire bag of pirate booty from Trader Joe's. I was like, wow, she's still eating.
Wow.
There-
Yeah, just like the
That-
whole
yeah.
thing.
That's when
I'm-
one character goes shopping and the others are
I'm
like, okay.
like one of those actors that is sometimes a little afraid to go back and watch myself.
I
And
know.
hearing that, I think I'll stick to my.
No, you should.
Who
you
knows
should,
what I'm?
You
I've
should
probably
check
got
your-
like a big pizza stain
No,
on my
you look
mouth
great.
right
You
now.
gotta-
You've done great.
Yeah, no,
You
I
gotta
did. I was like,
check
note
out
to
some of your
self,
playing. It's
there's
awesome.
one- there's such a thing as being too
Thank
comfortable
you.
on camera, like a little too.
We're making everybody hungry.
Yeah.
Get out there and get some pizza,
I feel
guys.
like-
This is a hangout.
Like an
Yeah.
old school, like Emerald Lagasse. Like, if you guys just had smell-o-vision right now, you could smell this.
Oh, that's so
Wow.
true.
You guys remember that?
Oh,
He
yeah.
is so adorable. I miss
Yeah,
him.
I know.
But anyway.
Okay.
But anyway, Mike actually had a great question.
Okay.
What's a classic monster that isn't very strong that you make stronger just to throw at your players?
I think that's an amazing question.
Yeah.
I think one thing you can do is
got it.
a monster. It doesn't have to be strong solely because of their stat sheet.
I agree.
Like if they're really literally have a high strength score and they carry a big weapon, like sure, they are strong and they could do like a lot of damage, right?
Yeah.
But I think another way you could make a not that strong of an enemy stronger or more threatening at the end of the day could be something like information that they hold or something that they can leverage against the players. Like anytime you can tie something personally
Yeah.
to the character, or if they, have a, like, you could have sort of another creature at play. Like, I think Christopher Perkins wrote about an idea like this. He had an amazing column. I think I've sent it to you, Judd. During 4th edition, he wrote like a weekly column about running the game.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's dope. You guys should definitely seek it out. I think you can find it on the Wizards of the Coast website. It's called the DMing Experience. But he recommended things like seeing a creature, and at first glance, it's not what it seems. Like this goblin, let's say, has actually had a, mind worm, I believe it's called, crawl into its head and take it over.
Wow.
And so it has maybe knowledge or
like a high
power or
intelligence,
something
yeah.
beyond what it appears to be, or even things like
That's super
seeing
cool.
a beholder in the distance, in the shadows, and using it to let your party get scared, only to eventually realize it's a dead one that has
Yeah.
cobwebs and spiders crawling out of it. So by doing that, an encounter with spiders, which I'm pretty sure we've all had in D&D, could be made a lot more impactful just because the spiders crawled out of a beholder, which you thought you were going to fight.
That's pretty cool.
And I think just remembering that these monsters are alive in a world where they can interact and intersect with other creatures.
I think that's a really cool point, and something I can't remember the name of the book. Somebody in chat let me know. It just came out. It was all about how monsters fight, and it's a good thing to remember that, if they have the intelligence, to make them fight intelligently, not just run up and hack. Use tactics. Have them use tactics. Have them.
The monsters know what they're doing.
That's what it is.
I
Yes.
have a really good idea, but I don't know if I should share it or save it for if and when I ever do a single.
A what?
Ooh.
Save it.
Yeah. No. Save it.
I
Save
might
it.
forget it.
Write it down. Write it down.
Don't tell us because we will.
Yeah, we will
keep
do
that.
Go
this.
whisper it. Go whisper it in that camera, and we'll go like this,
We
and
will
then you can just play it back
metagame.
later. No, I'm just kidding. That's ridiculous. But I hope you remember it, because that look on your face, I'm intrigued.
I'm going to share it
Okay.
because
all
there
right.
are many different ways in which this idea could get used, and I might forget it. And
Okay.
it's so based on real life. Like one time we were growing up on the East Coast in Maryland, and my mom had chickens. And it was night, and it was time to go feed the chickens. And my dad went out to go feed the chickens and came back, and I was like, I'd never seen him so scared. And apparently, a raccoon had attacked the chicken coop, but then also gathered and dragged all these chickens that had killed up into a tree. And so as he was looking for the chickens, it was throwing dead chickens down at him.
That's
And
really
in
creepy.
in the night, in the dark night, the black woods at night, and it freaked his crap out so hard. But if you had a monster that had somehow amassed things and was so first, what you think you're fighting is
Right.
like the equivalent of dead chickens, and it turns out it's actually something far sneakier.
Just
Yeah.
jumping off of that idea, I love that, maybe you're in a dungeon, you're fighting a certain group, maybe you're fighting some orcs or some goblins or some kobolds or something, and one of them does flee early in the combat, so that they could maybe get away or disappear down a tunnel. And while the party's fighting the rest that didn't, you see the person who ran away's body get thrown back down the
Yes,
hall like a rag doll.
Oh,
Yes.
And it just, now
Like, oh crap! What else is coming?
even though you're
Yes.
currently fighting kobolds, which aren't like
Yeah.
the strongest, most scary thing, you know that like something else is in the cards that's like
Yeah.
not too great.
Yeah.
I think anything like
Yeah.
that, like the circumstances around
Yes.
the monsters themselves, when you can really just like get beyond their stat block.
Yeah,
that's
I-
usually
the
gold.
whole-
100%
I think
agree.
that's the answer is this to make something that's not technically
Right.
statistically strong. It's the cleverness and the imagination of something which makes it just an immersive experience for
Yeah.
both the players that don't
Yeah.
see what's coming or yeah.
And it's a standard of screenwriting that you want to make your enemies as smart as possible because it makes your heroes as smart as possible because they have to rise up to beat them.
I want to
Yep.
say a little bit about that too. When you were talking about Strahd and why he's such a good bad guy, it occurred to me, and going off of what you said there, I think another thing that is the case with a lot of good bad guys is they don't think that they're bad. Like very few
yeah.
bad guys are like, I know, I'm just plainly evil, and
Yep.
that's just the way I am. Like
Yeah.
in their
Right.
mind, they have a twisted logic
Yep.
or a philosophy that they just think that they're,
They're doing the right thing.
or at
Yeah.
least something that is, good for them at minimum. And I think like, finding a way to show that philosophy that the bad guy has, it gives them depth. It really gives them a layer versus like, that kind of old school sword and sorcery, like I'm an evil,
Right.
blah, blah, which is great too. Like I, if I'm being honest,
It's fun.
I don't mind that either. But after a while,
Sure.
especially in
Yes.
a long-standing
Well, and that's why
campaign,
it's a cliche now, right? Instead
Right.
of actually having the writers put some energy into it and coming up with creative reasons for why they're bad guys, have this distorted view of the world that makes them bad.
right.
I think that's a cool note.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
that is scarier. And I
Yeah.
can totally see that Azar would try, if she saw that there was actually a thinking being in there, she would totally use that to try to convince them to change their ways, which would add another layer of tragedy
Sure.
when they would inevitably
Yeah.
refuse to change.
Oh yeah.
Captain Beard just said that the best villain is one which is only questionably evil.
Sure.
So you create a moral dilemma for the players dealing with him or her. And I think that's a very
Yeah.
good note too. It's
I
like,
completely agree, Captain. I think
Yeah.
you echoed the sentiments we were saying here too, and hopefully if you check out the stream, you'll get to see some baddies that are. Or at least we think they're baddies at play doing
Yeah.
just
yeah,
that.
I mean, it's been pretty early. I know we've had 16 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
But we're still pretty early into the story.
Yep.
And you guys now are level 4. So you guys have done great. And we're just starting to scratch the surface of this intrigue that's going on
Great.
in Anacroli. I really wish I could talk more about it. You'll have to wait and see. I know.
Nope.
But there's some good stuff coming up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Was there any other questions that anyone threw out, or maybe we can
Elaborate.
throw some out
Captain-
ourselves in the meantime?
Just a funny one that they were kind of talking about,
Sure.
but let's circle back to get your opinions. What would you call a character that is half human and half halfling? A three-quarterling?
Three-quarterling.
Half halfling?
Oh my god.
That was Captain Beard's question.
Captain Beard, you're going meta.
Oh man.
Half human and half halfling.
Well, I guess the first thing that came to mind was, again, having DM Dark Sun. One of the races that is unique in that setting that you don't see in the other ones is the Mole,
Maul is,
which is a half human, half dwarf.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit, closer to human height, but they're still very like stocky
Yeah.
kind of built. And sadly, the lore behind them is they were basically bred to be like slaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this
Yeah.
world, these like few tyrants kind of like control everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see how that thought experiment, how they designed it. It would actually be a really fun idea. I'd be surprised if someone hasn't
I'm
done
sure
it
it's out
already
there,
on
yeah.
DM's Guild or something. But
Yeah.
to put pen to paper and think, okay, if I was designing this hybrid halfling human, what would that look like? I don't know.
I don't know. Timmy said it's a trick question. That humans and halflings are incompatible.
Oh.
But who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, how could you be half? I guess you could be half half.
I mean,
But then you'd still have to have another half of something.
Yeah, it just gave me a headache.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think we'll leave it at that. So we started by talking about world building, but
Ooh.
you haven't DM'd
World building or role building?
No, world building. But
Let's
actually,
see
let's
it, please.
I'm choking on pizza because I don't have a drink.
Oh yeah,
So,
we all kind of forgot that.
we
one.
Were you
screwed that
hoping
up.
I was gonna come with
I
you?
No,
might
no.
have to go.
Peter,
We might have to go to a run.
could we do a run? Would you mind doing a run
I
for
would
us?
not
A run
mind
for
doing
permission.
Oh my god, you're a
Just-
gentleman and a
It's
scholar.
just off the set, so it's not.
But I might go. Beer.
There's also no laws with claws in the fridge if you.
Oh, maybe.
Are you guys talking in thieves' cant? What's going on? here?
Yeah.
Is this code?
Yeah.
No, what's going on?
We're not.
I'll take anything.
We're not sponsoring any
Like it,
drinks
sir.
until we are actually sponsored.
Sure. Whatever. I'll have what you're having.
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah. Yeah, surprise us.
Yeah.
Okay,
But I would love
there's,
to, Azar, I would love to
yeah.
transition back to kind of what you said, role building.
This seltzer water and some slash of Aperol, please.
Sorry, just place
Stand
my
by.
order.
What is this? We're going.
Peter, you're a man among men.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Oh, so what's that question?
So let's talk about because I'm sure people are interested, since you guys are players, right? And I didn't come up with your characters for you.
No.
In fact, it was really important for me not to meta what you guys were, either your race or your class. I wanted you, if you guys all came to me and said, we're all rogues, I'm like, all right, you're all rogues, or you're all bards, or whatever, I was going to let it happen.
All bards.
Yeah, that would be
That'd
interesting.
really cool. It'd be like
A
it
band.
would be like a cappella.
Somebody has that.
Yeah, like it's perfect.
It might be Devin Rue has an all bard.
I think it's.
group.
I know Satine Phoenix has one.
Maybe it's Satine Phoenix.
Do they sing all the time in 4-part harmony?
I think that's who it is.
I
Yeah.
certainly
That's what
hope
I would
so.
do. I
I've
totally
checked
could
out
do
some
that.
of it. I recommend it.
Oh,
I
that was
got to
pretty
catch
good.
up on that.
I was in an a cappella group.
Yes, you
Were
were.
you?
Oh yes.
Yes, she
Oh.
was. So I would love to hear kind of like your approach when you started thinking about your character and what you wanted to be,
Yeah.
and
That's a
how you
great
designed
question.
Well, I would love to hear everybody else's answers and responses to this. In fact, I really am dying to kind of have this conversation with other people. For me, I believe D&D is all about getting to play out fantasies. Like, and I don't mean fantasies as in like, oh, I'm just going to imagine for a while and come up with something with the power of my imagination. I mean literally personal fantasies. Like my personal fantasy that I could be more elegant or of noble birth or elf, you know? I mean, those are all fantasies that I hold dear and true in the core of my being. And that is why, you know, I chose to play what I played. And then when you get into, I mean, for me, that's the beauty of D&D is this whole world is literally enabling your desire to be other than what you are. It's enabling it with a concrete system that kind of reaffirms your belief and then goes 10 steps further and says, not only are you allowed to be an elf, but what kind of elf would you like to be? And then you're like, is there such a thing as a moon elf? And it's just, yes, there is. And then let's look that up. And here's everything. And so when you find that kind of resonance between what you wish could be and then what is in your character and your world for this game, I think for me, the joy starts to spring. And then I do think, you know, if you're hopefully good at D&D, which I don't know if I would qualify at being good at D&D,
you
but
qualify.
if you're good at it, I think you want to try to play with a sense for what will add to story and drive. Like one of the things I love about your character, Otto, is the arc. Like you have this wonderful, complex, really quirky, fully fleshed out character who's got, you know, the kind of not fatal, but flaws, you know, that make him kind of like hateable and lovable, and all the things that will make us fall in love with people in general, the people who aren't necessarily generic. They're very specific. They can be extremely quirky. I think it's great when you can build that into your characters. So that's realizing I didn't really do that with her, which is probably
No,
design flaw. I'll have to make sure I think about that.
I have to say, your character definitely comes across a lot of the stuff you were mentioning. I think the regality and her sense of honor and a lot of the attributes do come across really clearly. So don't sell yourself short with that. But no, I appreciate you saying that about Otto. I guess, you know, to answer that question, Judd, for me, as we were talking about at the beginning, I've played D&D for a long time, and a lot of that has been DMing.
Right.
Probably more DMing than playing, but I have got a chance to play characters, and each time I play a character, especially if it's going to be in an ongoing campaign, I always kind of want it to be different than a character that I've played before in a previous campaign.
Makes
you
sense,
know, kind
makes
of goes without saying. So for me, that's where it started. I've never played a character like Otto in any of the other games that I've had a chance to play in for a while. So some of the initial ideas about, well, what haven't I played? I've kind of played a character that was, you know, a little bit more of like a proper warrior.
Okay,
and was,
yeah.
You know, modeled themselves as a little bit more of a hero or a little. Otto is really not that in a lot of ways. He can be very cowardly at times, and he can be not. He does have moments where he can rise to the occasion. Oh man, this makes me happy.
White Claw stepping in.
All right.
And
Just a seltzer water.
amazing.
White Claw delivery service.
Thank you so much, man. Cheers, everyone.
Yeah, cheers.
We were just talking about the inspiration for our characters.
Both?
What is that, grapefruit?
Yeah.
All right, let me get one of those and I'll give you
Cheers to you.
Ooh, lime. Lime.
lime.
But anyway,
Yeah.
circling back, so yeah, part of it was just figuring out, I wanted Otto to be a different character. I think, I'm glad one thing that came across that I really wanted to put out there was his flaws. I think, playing, I should say, like me, I'm an actor in real life when we're not playing this game, but I think because of the way that I approach my work, it to some degree informs like the way I like to play D&D, which is to really think about this full idea of this person and the moment that I sit down really feel like I'm in their skin and
Love it.
can play to their flaws as well as any strengths or anything they may have. And for me, one thing that I thought would be fun, we've touched on it a little bit, like the Mendeleal, there's a secrecy there. There's certainly secrets that exist in the campaign that we've yet to discover.
Yeah.
And I think for Otto, there's a secret too. And if you've watched the game, you've probably seen that there's some dark unknown,
Yes.
and some otherworldly entity that is at play, and to what degree they have influence over Otto, and what he intends to do, or why he's kept in communication with them. That's all something that I wanted to plant the seed of going into the game, and then discover the rest of it during gameplay.
Yeah, that's the fascinating. I'll just.
Yeah.
Yeah, please, by all means.
Yeah, you haven't had a chance to talk.
One of the exciting things that is in a story arc or the movement of, just what I love about D&D is it's organic. The discovery of yourself and each other is organic. So where you want to sometimes hit stop and start going, where did you get this? Where did you do this?
Yeah.
You have to remember in the field of the atmosphere when you're really in the environment, because Seville is waiting. I mean, Peter knows, he's got some thing going on with the spell book and stuff like that. I know Otto has this, but Seville has never. He's seen the book, but he's seen something.
And that's the trick, right?
He's seen something on his side, but he's never really investigated it. And I haven't and I was going to do it last time when he was asleep, but
don't tell us that.
I just forgot about stuff like that. No.
That's
but
cool.
I forgot because I went home and I was like, oh, that would have been a good moment to investigate, because you can't outwardly know this and go, hey, why do you have this blast magic? I mean, it makes no sense to.
And like I said, I think that's the trick, right? Especially if you are a D&D player and you have all this knowledge and you know what they might be doing, so you know what type of character they are. But from a story standpoint, really being rigid about that. Like, I don't have that information, so I'm not going to say that. Or I'm not with that group as the rest are talking, because my character walked over here, so I can't participate in this discussion.
And again, relating it again to acting, like in the gaming world, we call it metagaming, right?
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't play your character in a way where they have knowledge that's really just privileged to you as the player, that they wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And I think, again, relating it to acting, if you say you're working on a project where you're doing a scene earlier in the movie and you're having a scene between you and your wife, and later in the movie all this stuff's going to happen and you're going to kill her or something by the end.
Yeah.
I don't play that in the scene where unless there really is some reason to, if it's a scene where that's coming up.
There's foreshadowing.
If it's in the rising action where everything's all hunky-dory and we haven't gotten into that yet, I'd be doing the project a disservice. I'd be doing the character
it wouldn't
a disservice.
Work. You'd be killing the twist.
You're right, I think you'd be completely missing the whole point of it.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
I kind of, I try to keep those things in mind. I think we all do, but yeah, it gets tough sometimes when we do. Like, certain situations become much trickier than others.
Yeah. And that sometimes you just have to call each other out. Be like, you're metagaming.
I don't think
right.
know that.
Or
hey, you're not there. Shut up.
That's
I think
too.
That probably happens in your guys' games out there too, and I think we all know if you've played this dilemma.
And one thing I want to go back to observation that Fane's Pomp said, that the strengths and the flaws of the characters come out through the game.
Yeah.
And that's what's so great, right? You want to make sure you just don't dump everything that you have about your character right away. There was a little bit of that with you guys at the beginning, and I'm like, rein it in. Because, sometimes it's like that. You guys gelled, I think, very quickly. Even your characters gelled really quickly. And sometimes there's that innate trust, and so you are going to talk about things. But there's still other things that you guys have in your backstories that you haven't shared, and other things, that will get revealed and start to impact the story as we go on. And I think that's what's really exciting. I think that's probably one of the reasons why D&D is so helpful for people who are dealing with difficulties in life and traumas and things like that, because they can start to kind of very carefully kind of tease that out and start putting it out there and start dealing with those things, which is a whole other topic. I won't steer us into that yet, but
I got a question for Azar.
Okay. Okay.
Say what you can say first.
And then Mike has a question for you.
Well, that's what all art is, right? And this is like what I was obsessed with at Princeton. It was like art is all experience, and all experience is a way of processing what we know and perception. And when we reflect on it, it allows us to break it apart. And that's why people who, participate can find it really cathartic. It's just like literally processing what it is to be alive. I always say, and a lot of people say, that being human is actually really overwhelming. Like, it's really overstimulating. It's really difficult. There's a lot coming in. And so being able to control a portion of it in this fantasy realm is really a safe place to just process being human. I think that's why we love watching things too, because as observers, we're watching safe risks that we can process along for the ride in little bite-sized ways, and we can then somehow feel a little more explained to ourselves.
Sure. Yeah, well said.
That's the excitement about role-playing is in this environment and that's the encouragement for everybody who plays D&D is go for it.
Yeah.
There's no wrong or right, but take a risk in your own self to explore something in the fascination, because you are playing a psychological creature that you've created.
Yeah.
And the more you give to it, the more animated and alive
it becomes.
To life.
It's so
and there
true.
are such special moments for your own self and the interaction with others that it's a real special thing. So, I mean, no matter what your comfort level is,
try
it.
I think that is such a good point, Peter, because for me personally, so everybody in the role players, except for myself, is either a professional working actor currently or has a background in acting, except for me. So while I have a background in Hollywood and writing and producing and directing, it's very different to be in front of the camera. And even before we started Role Players, when I started playing D&D, which was less than 2 years ago, started role-playing was really hard to do and to put yourself out there. And I can understand why a lot of people say that's really hard. It's hard to take that first step.
Yeah.
I would just encourage anybody who's thinking about it to take that first step, because that first step makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, you start getting really comfortable, and then you start to kind of crave it, because it is
It's
fun
so true.
to step out of your life and step into another creation, another person that you've created, and be that person and act that way and live out this, fantasy. And
you never know what's inside yourself.
Yeah.
But the safe space is a must. And that's what I think people who accept one another, they give the space. Yes, D&D is so much fun, but it also gives you an element of, I wonder what there is about me I have not discovered yet. Let's see. And your players and the people, us, that we help each other find that. It doesn't have to go as deep as that, but it's an exciting thing and a cathartic experience to share with people and friends.
So true.
On that note, because Azar is new at D&D, not new at acting, and we all know you completely go for it.
Yeah.
How do you find the experience of integrating your skill of acting and improv within the structure and framework of D&D or Erised?
I feel like it's the best work I've ever done. Honestly, I feel like I think when you take the stakes away a little bit of serving, you're writing everything. Like, yes, there's a DM and yes, there's an ensemble, but there are no rules. It's the ultimate in being your own director, being your own driver on it, and using your own sensibilities. And a lot of times when you're working in other projects, there's a script that has to be served in a certain way, and so you're coming from a place of of judgment or expectation. And I think as a person who would just really, put a lot of pressure on things, I think that would get in the way. It's not that I wasn't able to do good work. I was able to do great work, but to be able to also enjoy it as freely as I can when we're working here, I don't think I was ever able to enjoy. Well, except for when I would do theater. Actually, in theater, I felt it was very different because theater's also really, really organic.
That live experience,
and the moment's either really happening or it isn't. And then with film, hopefully sometimes the moment's happening, but it's a really different process.
Yeah.
It's not really quite like ritual process or dance, which I think dance is another really organic art form. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I love film, I love visual arts, I really do. It's just that some of them process more easily for me, I guess.
Sure.
I agree.
So that, and then I think I've always loved improv. And it's one of the things I was going to say is that for me, and I'm sure this is really obvious to a lot of people, but there's this concept in improv that I am fundamentally enamored with and have been since the moment I ever learned it. And it's the concept of the yes and. And when I learned this, it was like summer theater camp at Vassar or something, I was probably 19. I just felt like not only did it crack the code of great improv, but it also cracked the code of life. It was all about fearless risk-taking and trust that the answer's going to show up without your controlling it, which I think is amazing. And I think life is also so often playing out that sequence.
Sure.
So for me, it just fires on all the levels.
Yeah.
And so what you're doing in an improv room, if it's a D&D game or if it's up at Groundlings on the stage or whatever, what you're supposed to do are a couple things. One is listen very, very closely. And I love that because communication is also something I'm super passionate about. And I don't think we all listen enough to each other just in general in society. And, just even being together and connected around a table.
Sure.
That's why I think tabletop is like really special, especially special.
Oh, yeah.
So listening very, very closely, because a lot of listening has to do with setting your entire ego and setting your entire agenda completely aside for that moment, right? Which is a great state to be in and be really receptive. And then the positivity, because that's so nice. Like, you're never going to nag someone's contribution. My dad used to say, there are no dumb questions in brainstorming. And I always loved that. It's like, we're all discovering, always discovering. And
all
the
building
smartest
off each
people
other.
are the most open-minded. So it's like you're always adding to, you're going to affirm whatever Chad says, and then you're going to add to that. And it's this generosity. It's like coming to table with the grapes and the figs and the bread, and then suddenly this feast has occurred. So, that's
a great insight.
I did like what you said about the player. I mean, you're not on rails. You can do anything. We don't know what you're going to do. You might not know what you're going to do. It's like we're each the storyteller.
I think one of the things
really fascinating.
that and speaking of improv relating to the game. Yeah, and then certainly, please.
We just got a good question, but you go ahead.
Oh, I'll just finish this real quick. Basically, I think one of the things that what's important about using improv in the game is, one, don't be afraid of failure. Again, it almost kind of touches back on the metagaming thing. Like, as a player, we can probably get wise to, if there's maybe some danger afoot in the game. And I think instinctively, it's easy to get, really cautious or maybe try to tiptoe around. But I think at the end of the day, your characters, push them forward into the conflict because that's the whole spirit of the game, and that's the adventure. And your character is probably a character who will make mistakes that maybe even you as the player could see coming, but you'll be doing the story and the game and the spirit of fun and adventure a favor by, like you were saying, just yes-anding and letting things that could even be conflict happen in the game. Because that anybody who's played, be it from the time Peter has or someone newer, will tell you that's where a lot of the fun will happen. So I couldn't agree more.
That makes so much sense. Yeah, it's so true. That's like you learn more when things go wrong than when they go right.
Oh,
Totally.
it's even. As a viewer, it's like this, this thing of they stepped in it this time. How are they going to get out? Who's going to step out? Who's going to step out?
Which is so fun, right? That's what you want to see. You want to see those moments, so you can't play too cautiously because this is theater. Which actually, this segues great to, or it segues well to a question that Timmy had, which is One of the best things about live theater is the energy that flows between the audience and the actors.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's wondering if we feel that energy playing D&D, and have we ever done this with a live audience? So
Funny, you should ask that.
Well, we'll
Well-
be at Lincoln Center.
no,
That's
I
a
mean,
great question.
It is a
Thanks,
great
Debbie.
question,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so when we were playing our test campaign, it was just us. There was nobody watching. We had a great time.
Yeah.
The moment I'd say, and at least for me, when we first started the show, even though you guys are out there and there's this weird kind of one-way feed of the energy, we feel the energy out there. You know, we feel that you guys are watching, and it does feel like we're performing on a stage in front of people.
Yeah.
So we do feel that way. And now I know you've DM'd at cons in front of live audiences, I'm sure. What's that experience like versus the show?
I think that's a good question. I think what comes to mind, there's a great convention in Los Angeles, which I know we've talked about a little bit lately. I'll leave it at that for now, but it's called Strategicon, and they organize some of, if any of you have played like an organized D&D game, the epic events, they call them.
Epic
And
events.
Epic, yeah. They
Worldwide.
setting the bar high with that.
Yeah, no doubt.
But what it entails is this idea that, like, you know, we have a story that is here at this table. Well, what they do in a convention setting where there's a ton of tables is there's one story of like something going on, and each table is playing a team that is somehow contributing to that story. But they're all doing
super
something
cool.
different. And what table A
Like
does...
Game of Thrones, like all the different plans.
Kind of, like there's some of that. There's definitely like factions and groups,
Okay.
but there's a lot of interaction where it'll be like, if table A succeeds or fails, it will make it easier or harder for table B. And there's a lot of like,
Wow.
what, and it's all happening live. So the reason they call it epic is because it is a lot to manage, and
Yeah, I was
there's
gonna say.
literally a headquarters where people have to keep track. So
That's cool.
when you talk about
Wow.
playing in front of a live audience in that way, and there are people who are just kind of like, maybe didn't sign up for it, but are just there to be like, what is all this craziness about?
Right.
I think, yeah, it helps add to the sense of like immediacy and urgency.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I like about it is it's a session of play where the boring parts the fat is trimmed away. Like if you're spending hours like doing your rest, which granted in its own way, like that could be great, like in a campaign. Maybe during your rest is where a great role play
Right.
scene happens or something.
The
But
good old
generally,
shopping episode.
sure, like generally speaking, those parts are boring.
Right.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
So I love the idea that's like, that's just, there's too much going on, it's too urgent, and it's just really putting the emphasis on the action. So
Yeah.
I think in that kind of setting, having people watch, and you almost feel having the audience, I need to, if you're the DM or you're the player, I think equally you feel that like, I need to keep the
The
spirit
pressure.
of like urgency and like adventure going.
Yeah.
So I
Makes
do think
sense.
having an audience really helps with that, because otherwise, you know, like I've definitely, you know, done a full textbook like back in Texas, playing in a buddy's garage, eating pizza, and like
Right.
we barely get anything hardly done. And don't get me wrong, it was great fun.
Right, exactly.
But my point is that's a lot different than the experience you'll get maybe in front of a live audience where you're really trying
Which
to
I think is
Yeah.
interesting
push
when
the
you
story forward.
when you look at shows like Critical Role that and you know there are haters and lovers out there. I'm a lover
There are
of it.
haters.
There are, believe it or not. But I think what they've done so well is show that the non-action moments in D&D can be phenomenal, if not even more powerful, as long as you have people that are really playing your characters in a realistic way and showing interaction and just these relationships that are building and the things that they're dealing with.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
really, I mean, it is like good theater, and so.
Yeah, the
That's
deeper
it.
the player knows their character, the more it's not like
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, it
gonna
feels
go.
the moment. I do think one thing with playing D&D that I try to be really cognizant of, and I think it makes for even better kind of watching, is feeling all the moments, whatever they are, feeling them fully. Even when you're feeling kind of like, oh, this is kind of a low or down moment, it's like, okay, what's going on with me physically? Am I gagging because I hate the smell of this manure? Or for trying to really be in that moment, because it's it's real life. For the moments that you're playing this character, it's this moment of real life. So whatever
Yeah.
that is, if you feel it, then it's not necessarily a dull moment, hopefully, as much.
I think
At least to the player, because then
No.
you've got something to do at least while you're waiting
Cool.
for something
Yeah.
else to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it can help, but I was going to say something completely going back to what Timmy said about the audiences.
Yeah, yeah.
I've really wanted for a long time, and I'm hoping that at some point we, the role players, can figure out the way to do this. And the DM will maybe shut me down about this if you really think it's not a good idea. But I've wanted to figure out a way in which the people watching can engage more in a game, at least a game. Like I wanted to find a way where the tabletop play is actually being informed in some way by the viewers, because that's really exciting. It's like an old improv game where sometimes you would just be like, all right, we're going to do a whole improv game, and there's one word only we're not allowed to say. Somebody in the audience throw it out. Because if we ever say that word by accident, then I have to, whatever. And then there's this game that you just started to play, and the audience is kind of part of it, and it's really fun improv.
Yeah.
I'd love to figure out a way to kind of do that.
We have talked about doing some special little one-offs where I'd really like to do one for all of you out there where you can actually impact the story.
Choose your own adventure.
It is kind of a choose your own adventure, and I think there's a way to do it in Twitch where we can put up like a survey so you guys can choose, and the most popular option takes
and
us
it happens
I think I might keep it secret from you guys and just play it off the chat and kind of let them decide, and then I'll just weave it in. I don't know. There's lots.
I love the idea of finding a way to
That'd be
interact
incredible.
more. Be it, if maybe you. I mean, I know that I'm sure there's other streams that have incorporated ideas like this out there, but having a monster spawn because of some, a subscriber,
Sure.
hitting a milestone, or having being able to introduce maybe a non-player character that they design. Like, if we know we're going to meet with a particular group or person toward the end of a session, we could ask one of our subscribers, maybe through a giveaway or something, we randomize it to where they can contact you and give you a quick pitch for the NPC for you to play next time, or something like that.
Timmy's already doing that for us.
Oh wow! Well, there you go.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Cool.
We'll see how that works out.
Well, I look forward to see what you come up
what
with.
was Mike's
continuing
question?
with that, getting
don't worry.
guest stars
He's not so patiently waiting for his question to be asked.
The audience has come up with. I was just gonna say another thing I'd love to do is once we can get this structure, get suggestions for a character to be played by a guest star on an episode.
Oh,
Our
yeah,
audience
yeah.
can pick. And then one more would be to really take that choose your own adventure thing. We come to a crossroads, just like last episode. We had the white world, and then we went back in the kind of cavern, kind of
The sewer.
The sewers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there'd be a way to make it choose your own adventure where we're having a debate about whether, one of us
Sure.
is like, no, we really need to go out there. And then we can just be like, okay, DM
Viewers,
is gonna-
one way seals
which
off.
one do they do?
Yeah.
And we do a poll, and then whichever
If
wins,
we
we
need a
play
tie
that.
it.
we
I
should
love
do
it.
that.
Yeah, I would totally
maybe.
do that.
Although I will
Maybe.
say,
Not
my
all
only
the time. Maybe just
my
like
only
one special
pushback-
No,
episode.
I totally
Is
get
that-
it. I love it.
as the controller of the narrative, I really want the decisions that you guys make to be your decisions.
Sure.
In the world. That's why I would say all of the things that we could change the show completely and do a lot more input from our audience. Which
Maybe just every now and then. Like
Maybe every-
resign a little
Maybe-
control here and
Just-
there.
I have seen some
Definitely
shows
makes
that.
the DM's job a lot harder. It's like, you're like,
Sure.
no, it's gonna.
Well, you
No,
could do
not
it
really, but-
in fun situations, like a
Yeah,
fun thing.
there are things that I would like to, because we really want you guys to have fun, not just watch and interact
Yeah.
too. So we're going to be thinking. I know that some shows do a thing where, if you follow or sub, you get X number of points, and then if you get enough points, you can then use it to give inspiration to a character.
That's kind of fun.
Or you can do disadvantage to a bad guy whose turn is coming up. So there's lots of cool
I
little
like
things like
those
that.
Little things.
I think it's
there.
not going to
fun.
really
Little-
massively impact the narrative,
right.
but will
Yeah.
be fun for you guys. So while you're listening, guys, throw out ideas. We'll
Get an
take them. We'd
extra-
love to see what you
Extra
would like.
D4 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
stuff like that.
Any other questions, Judd?
Well, let's see. Mike had a question, but I don't know if we have time for it, Mike. Let's look for some other ones.
Okay.
Wait,
no,
I thought
I'm
we were
just
checking.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No,
So
ears are
Mike
burning.
wanted to know for Peter. He said, "Your Instagram is Way of the Open Heart. have you ever thought of trying to create a monk subclass that deals with healing or mending the
That's
soul
such
of
a
other
great-
PCs or NPCs?
That is such a great idea.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. That.
Yes.
Yes.
He's like,
Definitely.
Yeah.
And there may be some of that
Yeah.
here.
On
in
the
this
DM's
one.
Guild, I'd like to
I
see
heard
that.
nothing.
Yeah.
I heard nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know nothing.
Yeah, there is definitely yeah, I'll just say yes.
Yes.
It's crossed your mind?
Yes, it has crossed my mind.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really
awesome.
cool. And Fanes Pump had another question. He
Yeah.
wanted to know, for me, how do I feel about unpredictable nature of the storyline that depends on a lot of the players? Do you also get the sense that the answer will always show up? So I am new to DMing. I've only been doing it since past summer, and coming from a screenwriting background where I control everything. I control what the players say and do. I have ultimate control. I knew enough coming into it. I did enough research and watched enough just shows and like, you know, Matt Colville and all these other people, like all their DM tips, not to railroad your players. And so there comes a point as a DM, and I'm sure you guys know this, where you have to let go of expectations to a degree. I mean, you can always pull strings and control things and bring things back where you want. But I've also noticed that there's a lot of magic that happens when you guys get to put your personal stamp on it. May come up with something I didn't think of. And that's happened where I thought, okay, well, here I've designed this episode, and here's this story, and this beat's going to happen, and then this beat's going to happen. It's going to lead to this. And then you guys come in and you do something
That first
crazy.
beat never even happens, right?
And I immediately am like, oh my God, I didn't think of this. This is even cooler. And I instantly change it. You
Yep.
know, I instantly create a new PC or NPC and start weaving that storyline. So yeah, I think you do if you trust yourself, which is something I say to myself now before every show. Just trust myself.
Absolutely.
Because the story will find its way. And yeah.
I think a big component of that, in your case, like we talked about earlier in the Q&A, you designed Anacrely. And I think whether or not you're the DM and you've designed the world that you're running the game in, or if you're playing in another setting, if you have an idea of the world, it doesn't have to be like you've read all the books and know like the pre-existing lore, but you know the world of the game that you're trying to run, or that you and your players hopefully maybe even talked about before the game started. What kind of game do we want to play? And if you run it with that knowledge of the world in mind, then I think it's hard to convince yourself of it, but that's enough. That way, when somebody goes in a way that you didn't expect, it's just take them along. It's in the same world that you know.
Yeah.
That you maybe created, and just let them go and see what's there.
And
right?
which I've also seen this question thrown around for new DMs. Do you prefer homebrew or a module? And for me, because of those kind of moments that you're talking about, Chad, it's way easier to homebrew because you're creating everything. And when I've tried to run a module, I really wanted to run some old school D&D stuff. So I actually had Peter and Azar one night over the summer. Do you guys remember? It was an old module called Horror on the Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was not a really good module, but I was so excited, and I'm like, oh my God, it's all old school, and I got it on eBay, and it was just like, I'm reliving. I didn't get to play as a kid, and I wanted to, so I'm like kind of reliving those years.
Yeah.
But I'm also super busy, and I don't have a lot of free time, so I didn't have a chance to read through the entire thing. I read through like a quarter of it, and I started glancing at the rest, and then I noticed very quickly, oh crap, I don't know this world. Hold on, let me read about it. Okay, way harder. So my recommendation is create a world. It doesn't have to be a whole continent and a whole epic campaign. Create something small and go from there and just try it, because you'll just be able to improv it.
Yeah, and I think one other tip to keep in mind if you're DMing in that regard, if you're looking to make sure you don't railroad your players, sometimes, your players might be in the middle of the world and they don't have a lot of quest hooks, and maybe it feels like there's just a lot for them to do, and they can go any which way. Certainly, a campaign maybe comes to those moments, but odds are they're in a moment where when push comes to shove, you could at least just give them 2 or 3 things. 4 things or whatever.
Yeah.
And make sure that you've emphasized, hey, there's a few things you can do. That way they know they're not railroaded. It's not like you're forcing them to do one thing, but it's also because of what's important to the players or what's going on in the story. It doesn't necessarily have to be like Skyrim, like infinite possibility.
Right.
Which, if you can, if you're, like I said, if you're in the spot where that is the case and you can trust yourself and go with that, great. But I think it's a good thing to remind yourself, hey, even if I can create a few options, that's usually more than enough to make everything feel like, freeing.
I totally agree. Killer Panda said the world is the DM's character, and I thought that was so cool.
pretty profound.
Wow,
I was
that's
that is so
profound.
deep.
Look at you, smarty pants.
And it's
Wow.
it's so true too because
Yeah.
I used OneNote to create Anacrally and all the lore and all of that, and so I have all these pages and notes and everything.
Sure.
I never look at that on the show, ever. Like, I created it. It's in my head,
It's just like actors when you're preparing for a role. You do a lot of prep work behind the scenes. It's never going to get on the camera.
true.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's sense memory work, whatever it would be, but you're doing all this internal preparation, your backstory, all this stuff, just so that when you get on camera or on stage, you're totally letting that go and you're in the moment.
Yeah.
That is profound.
It is. That is super cool. KP. I feel like that needs to be a t-shirt or something.
And to your point, Chad, I was just going to say one thing that
Yeah.
carries in with that whole improv thing is that for me it also is a bit like jazz. So really great jazz players, they know the notes, they know the chords, and that's the training, right? You got to learn all your scales and stuff like that, what notes are sharp and stuff. But when they really get down to it, if they're with a really good ensemble, they pick something like 3 parameters, which is the key, like we're going to start in D flat.
Yeah.
The key change, so and then the number of bars before that. So like after 18 bars, we're gonna go into like a riff, and then the drum solo, whatever, and then we'll end back up in D. And
Yeah.
those are parameters though, because without it, it would get crazy. Everybody would be doing too many different
That's
things.
like the adage, know the rules so you can break them,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
structure,
true.
that combination between some structure and freedom is where the freedom in the improv can really fly, because the structure is what allows the strength at the core of it, so it can be really fly to greater heights.
Yeah, chaos always has structure.
So guys, throw out more questions.
Yeah, please.
They got sidetracked discussing if it was whore on the hill or horror on the hill.
The horror on the hill.
Maybe that's what the problem
that's
was.
probably why.
The
They just kept calling me a whore all night, and I just got hurt.
Yeah.
It
It wasn't that bad a module, by the way. I shouldn't badmouth that module. It was
Yeah.
okay.
Well, what happened was actually they ended up at a store, and Peter and Judd started shopping, and then I was
Oh,
like,
that's a good. They gotta,
sleepy.
I'm sorry. What? Oh yeah,
That's
the
what
show.
happened. We ended up at a store, and they
The
just
dreaded
started
shopping sesh.
We
I
started.
was like-
It was sesh 1, and it was like you had to go like that was part of the setup. You had to
Yeah.
kind of go get equipped for this
Yeah,
expedition on the hill. And Peter and I are like, this is so cool. I've
Yeah,
got
just
everything listed.
detail.
You guys are such dorks.
I
What
know.
you should have done was just say, we've already done that. Here's the stuff you
Yeah,
bought.
oh.
Now let's get to the good part.
You know, we should have learned
That's what I
that
was
from
saying. I
the
was
from
like,
the Christmas
"Why don't we just let
debacle.
go?"
But,
Yeah, I know.
well,
But
I
it's
think
just so-
I think that,
so much
but
fun.
it really is hard
Yeah, we
because
do have a good
some
question.
parts of it are fun, in theory, but in practice you have to like. I think the best way to think of it is each session
Yeah.
is like a movie or an episode of television. Like
Yeah.
if this is the part where they would cinematically like cut past it
Yeah.
and get to the next fun part, then do that in your game. Skip it.
Yeah.
And get to like the next cool part.
But I mean,
The montage is allowed to be
that's
a montage.
maybe that's
Totally.
something we could reach out to the audience. We're like, do you guys want to have a shopping episode here?
Oh gosh.
No,
honestly, I love them. I think a lot of
don't.
people love them.
I don't.
Look, you got that
actually,
chess
you know
piece.
what's so
Come
ironic
on.
about
But
that?
I think the difference there is
dug
that was a
shopping.
scene, right?
I
No,
like
that's
the
what I mean.
So it
shopping.
was
No, that's what I'm
shopping,
talking
but it
about.
really wasn't shopping. It was really
No.
more an opportunity to
For role playing.
have a scene happen. Now that I'm all for.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
That's what
about.
I
But
mean.
I'm
That's what I
talking
mean.
about like guys like when you're barely in character and for half an hour trying to figure out how much like it's gonna cost. Like no thanks.
No, this, by the way,
Yeah, no.
this was all in character.
Oh, I'm sure.
This
but
was
you,
this was
you know
gold.
what I mean. We've
this
all.
was gold.
Yeah, that was my.
Well,
My-
so you say.
my
No, I totally get what you mean, but yeah, I just think like you know, you gotta just be a little bit mindful of it because it's very easy to get wrapped up in it once you're in it.
Look, Killer Panda has spoken. She wants a shopping episode, so.
Oh, see, I think maybe it's like a
We'll have
it's like
more
cilantro.
soon.
Like some love it, some hate it.
I promise I will really spend extra time to make that really exciting.
And I'll promise to be sick that night. Like,
Like I blew all my money on a jeweled armor, so I'm
Timmy
not
the Spork
shopping
has also
anyway.
chimed in. He's a retail manager. Love to watch a shopping episode. So, all right.
Phooey. Well, I've been out.
And Timmy
long
had
as you
another
can-
good question,
yeah.
actually. Since we're all regularly
upgrades,
snacking and drinking on the show,
That's yo, you've
oh, you
noticed.
have you noticed? I thought we were all secret about that. Has alcohol consumption ever had an impact, positive or negative, on the game?
Positive.
I think it's only been positive so far.
No, listen,
so
the
far.
anti-alcoholic messaging in me is like, no, it should never be a tool. Like I think,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it is. A lot of times it is. I mean, it's like that's part of the fun is you're sitting there chilling with your friends, and
Yeah.
the alcohol, if anything, is just letting you
Alcohol.
relax and be in the
Yeah,
moment. and,
it's
you
just
know.
for fun.
Yeah.
It is.
Just
It's just for
to
fun.
help us.
But, and to be honest, I think the first couple of times we aired, there was a little bit of liquid courage, and I'm not proud of that because really I feel like it should never be used for courage, but maybe a little bit. It took a little bit of the nerves away.
100%
A
here,
little
because
bit.
I was terrified.
Oh, big time. Big time.
Terrified.
Okay.
Me
New
too.
DM and.
Yeah. But as far as like negative, I mean, I think.
By the way, that's like a drink. Like we are
Yeah,
not
right.
big drinkers.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
it's
the
like
thing.
that's. But
Another one?
we're those white claws. We're not big drinkers. So,
Thank you very much.
no, I.
you know, wait. Do we need a White Claw emote? I think we do.
That would be a good one.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
It's coming, guys.
It's a new
I
barbarian
like to
tribe
make sure
from
that
White
I don't
Claw.
have to
Oh, we just
have
got a
alcohol to
subscriber.
play, though. I
Absolutely
like
not.
Like sometimes
Oh,
I'm having
KP
seltzer water,
gifted.
and sometimes I'm having
my
Damn,
God.
she just
something
throws
kind
that
of
stuff
serious.
out like
Oh,
gingerbread cookies.
Just because like all the jazz
Hold on,
musicians,
KP, you're getting a
they
big
a lot
shout
of them
out.
did have to shoot to play, you know, and you don't want to get into a trap with that.
Oh yeah, and I think a
No.
lot of that's just like a cognitive, like you create these little anchors in your mind sometimes.
Yeah.
Like as somebody who used to.
The show's
play-
not long enough to
Yeah.
have it negatively
To drink
affect
enough to
us.
No, that's true. By the way, you know, we could play all night. We limit it so that you guys can still have a life outside the show as well.
And
But
so we can get some. But
I have to. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I did do an
We're our
experiment.
show.
I did an experiment a couple episodes back where I didn't have anything to drink except for like seltzer water, and because I wanted to make sure I still liked everybody and enjoyed myself just as much. And I'm happy to report, I was like, I'm still loving this just as much. So it's definitely not.
Oh,
Yeah, I wouldn't
you know,
say any
It's
of us.
not like beer goggles.
I did the exact same thing. I'm like, because I'm afraid of like alcoholism, and I don't ever want to
Love
use
that.
alcohol.
Azar's inner monologue is just coming out.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, guys.
So
overshared.
I've done the same thing.
Actually,
No.
on this episode, it did. It allowed Azar to overshare.
There we go.
No, it's
it was
fine.
actually-
It's fine. It's good. It's good to share. We want to be,
Yeah,
open.
no, share.
But I've DM'd without any alcohol over here as well, and it's like just to see that I can do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can, by the way. So you don't need it. Now it's just fun. Now
Phew, you got
I know.
that one out of
I
the
know.
way.
Ooh, it's good. Bring me my drink.
Yeah.
Killer Panda, you awesome crazy person, just gifted a whole bunch of subscriptions.
Oh, thank you.
Out to people. It's so sweet. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We absolutely love
we
you.
are so grateful for
You've been
you
such a
doing that.
champion of our show.
And you guys, I don't know if some of you maybe weren't here earlier when
Oh,
we were
yeah.
talking about it. Do check out KP's Twitch channel where she's streaming, I believe, Star Wars Fallen.
Fallen Order.
And
Fallen
also,
Order right now.
Lord of the Rings Online.
And
a
Lord of the Rings
personal
Online.
favorite.
Love that
KP,
game.
let me know when you're doing that because, man, I'm thinking about brushing that game off and getting back in there. Left the Door still exists. And
Yeah, but
Man.
you're such an awesome supporter of what we're doing. So everybody,
Yeah.
please go
Yeah.
check out
That's
her
crazy.
stuff as well.
Thank you.
yeah, she's awesome.
Just you want to tell us what night she's streaming so we can tell everybody?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
say in the chat.
Yeah, just tell us in the
Panda,
chat
let
and
us
then we'll say it.
know right now what your schedule is so we can tell everybody who's here so they know when to go follow you. And guys, hop over to her channel and follow her. And she's affiliate now. Oh, I got to go subscribe to her.
Woo! Nice.
So we got some subs coming right back at you.
Yep.
I forgot you made affiliate the other day. That's awesome.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And it only took like
That's
a week.
quick.
Yeah.
So let's see. Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, she'll be playing Lord of the Rings Online.
Great.
I think I slurred that a little bit, but yeah. So go check that out. And then, KP, are you also going to be playing any additional Star Wars? Let us know. I guess you guys can see the chat too.
Yeah.
So just realize
point.
that.
Good point.
Just yeah.
That's a
All right.
really good point.
Let me see if I missed any questions. What's everyone's favorite alcoholic beverage? I could speak for 3 of us. It would be a bourbon-y concoction, old fashioned.
Bourbon fans for sure.
Yeah.
I've been really partial to, actually when we went out after the show, when we played for Judd's birthday, I think I'd introduce you to one of my recent favorites. It's a bourbon cocktail called a Paper Plane.
Paper Plane, which I love the name.
It is a good name, and it's a good
So what was it again?
So it's equal parts bourbon, Amaro, which is kind of like an aniseed, like kind of licoricey type Italian liqueur.
Yeah.
Amaretto, and lime juice. And you just do equal parts of all that.
It's pretty cool. It's really different.
It's like it's got that kind of like bourbony, woodsy flavor, but it's like a little sweet and it's a little citrusy from the lemon. It is very good.
Killer Panda said she doesn't know if we know this, and we didn't. She loves bourbon, and she's an aerospace engineer by trade, and this is her kind of drink.
Whoa!
Wow!
Just so impressive.
Oh, that is so cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
No wonder we get along so well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh
That's
my
pretty cool.
gosh. Female engineer. I love
And Timmy wants to know what our
that.
favorite bourbon is. I mean,
That's a
so
toughie.
I'm more. I've been of the Scotch world, and
Yeah.
I'm switching over to bourbon now. I've tried several, but I keep coming back to Bullet. I don't know if
I
that's
like
totally
Bullet.
basic.
I do. I also like.
At least for old fashions, it's great.
I know it's by no means a top shelf choice. I like Wild Turkey, but just a nice, like a nice kind of balance. I feel like that's the terminology everyone uses when they talk about anything alcoholic. Balanced. But I think with bourbon, it really is important because it can taste like a piece of like wood or like like a cigar or something. So if it's like really balanced, I can get down. But yeah, Bullet's a great choice.
Yeah, like I had some Whistle Pig. And that some buddies gave me for a couple birthdays ago, and I didn't really like it. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I gave it to Chad. He took it. It was balanced.
Yeah, it was balanced enough for me.
Yeah.
But what about you? What's like your favorite?
Well, on the show, I drink a lot of Aperol spritzes. I
That's
went
a
to
good
Italy
one.
and I fell in love with the Aperol spritz.
So
It's just
refreshing.
So refreshing, amazing. Sometimes I'll make them with champagne in them, but I usually don't like champagne much. So a lot of times I'll just have them with like seltzer water, so they're not very alcoholic at all. I am also a huge fan of the limoncello spritzer, a little concoction I've invented. But my main jam, if you're gonna just like get me somewhere where I'm gonna drink pretty hard, is a margarita. I love margaritas. I make great margaritas.
You do?
Okay.
I gotta try one of your
dude,
margaritas.
Margarita nights.
Margaritas are the best.
Like
I gotta try.
Margarita
I
night
love
Saturday.
a margarita. You gotta try one of
Oh
your
really?
margaritas.
I gotta make it for you then.
Yes.
Saturday night, let's
we
get
gotta do a
loose.
Cinco de Mayo
yes.
margarita special with
Or the Saturday.
margaritas.
Good a reason as any.
That's margaritas. I never thought of that.
Actually, about Saturday, before I forget, well, I will. We may be doing something different for Saturday because of scheduling conflict. We're not sure of yet. We'll let you guys know.
Not yet, but yeah.
That's why I keep being like,
I know.
I want to
Fingers
give
crossed.
everyone my attention too.
Oh, Gareth jumped in, and they started talking about Scotch.
Oh, I love
And
Scotch also.
Lafroig.
Lafroig.
Yeah,
yes.
I forgot to say that. I also just
And Lafroig and or Lagavulin.
Yes!
So both of those are my favorite. I really like peaty scotches.
Pete,
Yeah.
Walsh.
So those are the best.
Yes.
In fact,
Lafroig and Lagavulin.
yeah, just I have
And Talisker.
in fact,
and
Can
Talisker.
be good.
Yeah, and our
Once you
bag.
get a little tired of Lafroig and Lagavulin, you just switch to Talisker and then get back onto Lagavulin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of alcohol talk, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, by the way, I really do like these White Claws, and I know that's totally basic. I don't care. They're
Yeah.
so like light and refreshing, and it's
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
pretty great. So I have no shame.
Simplicity is genius.
That's it.
Yeah. Let's see. What else you guys want to talk about? Well, we should.
Sure.
Ain't no clause. Let's try. No clause. No laws with claws. I can't say it.
Let's see.
Let's see.
I almost like could imagine maybe like turning the tables on our viewers and maybe throwing a question out there to see if anybody like maybe asking.
well, I have one.
Yeah.
I just totally rudely cut you off.
Don't no. By all means, I was gonna try to think of one as I was
I was
going.
thinking, and I like to hear your story. I know Peter's, but you can tell the audience. But origin stories for playing, like, how did you learn about D&D? What was your first game? How did you get into it? Love to hear from you guys in the chat. And
That's
then,
a great question.
I'll read theirs out, but as they're typing, Chad, why don't you go? 'Cause I
Sure.
cut you
So
off.
I think I started, it would have been, the very first time I played, I think was in like 2006. I was in high school, and it was pretty great. I was like, at the time I was like doing theater in the theater department at my school, and there were some guys that, you know, I'd heard them talking about playing, and I think at the time it was like 3rd edition, or maybe 3.5 had just came out, something like that.
Okay.
And anyway, I'm like, what is this? This sounds up my alley kind of deal. And we literally, at the time, we had this basically blow-off class that was called Tech Theater. And sometimes it could be really busy. It was meant to sort of like help prepare all the tech stuff. We had a grossly underfunded theater. But every once in a while, we'd be doing a show that had, like, you know, not much tech to it. If we were doing like a small little black box thing or something, depending on the time of the year, it'd be like, there really wasn't much to do. We had a pretty cool teacher. So we literally, and I remember in tech theater class, had like rolled, one of the guys brought his book and we rolled up characters.
No
and
way.
I was like a kid in a candy store, because it was like, a lot of you have probably had this experience where like you open the player's handbook and you see the art and it's so great, and
Amazing.
you're just seeing all the classes. And for me, like, you know, I had played video games, and it was just like this revelation of how so much of what I had experienced all owed itself to this.
Yeah.
And
That's
it
so
was
cool.
like the analog version of this thing that I knew. And it was really cool. So my very first encounter was that, just literally some buddies and blowing off class at school, diving into it. And once I got into college, by that time I had played and was pretty into it. And since I went to college in Vermont, where it would be like, oh, it's too cold to exit the building today.
That's too bad.
It kind of everything fell into place where like me and some friends just got super into. That was actually when I started my Dark Sun campaign, eventually, that I mentioned, and it was all just kind of.
And was that the first time you had DM'd? Was that campaign?
Yes, the first time I had DM'd was in college, probably in like 2010, I want to say. And I think before I ran my Dark Sun game, I was just kind of running some adventure modules and stuff for people, and then eventually was like, okay, I think I want to try my hand at something. And it was 4th edition at the time, and they had come out with Dark Sun, and it was the first I heard about it. But when I started researching it, I realized that it went all the way back to 2nd edition and had sort of this reputation for being a brutal setting, and it was just very tempting for me and all of my friends playing at the time to be like,
so
okay,
cool.
we got to get into this. So
People are
you
so
know,
passionate about
it
that.
just hooked me. I think, you know, like we've talked about, you know, a lot of us having acting as part of our background, that was literally the source of the discovery for me. And it definitely just kind of like was just an easy wave to catch and ride all the way to here today.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I'll read a couple of theirs. Timmy the Spork, one of his father's best friends was an amazing DM, and he played 1st edition in elementary school.
Yes.
So cool.
Amazing.
He had a fighter named Ambrose Spike.
Ambrose Spike.
Only played like once a year, and he never got past level 1. And then in 6th grade, one of his buddies ran D&D during recess, 15 minutes a day, every day. Had a wizard named Eartho.
That's amazing.
Hopefully I'm
That's
saying that.
fantastic.
After a character in a Mercedes Lackey. Is it Lackey book? Yeah, Mercedes Lackey book. Interesting. Oh, that's so cool.
Very cool.
And then Captain Beard, I grew up in the 80s and played D&D with an older cousin once in a while.
Right on.
Then I didn't play for a number of decades. Now I play D&D with my teenager weekly. Oh,
that's
so
great.
awesome.
Yes.
So good with kids. That is so good with kids.
And it might be a good time to remind, I'm sure most of you guys watching know about our dice donations that we're always wanting to.
Yeah,
you know,
we
let
haven't
people
talked
aware
about
of.
it, but every new follower that we get, we donate a set of dice to kids in schools so that they can play this game. And it's through Tabletop Loot's Gift of Knowledge program, and it's so cool. So we just did a donation last week, I think.
Yeah.
Like 30 sets of dice, which Tabletop Loot then doubled our donation.
Amazing.
So cool. And when we get to 200, we're giving away another D&D book to you guys.
Yay.
And then we're giving out several D&D starter packs to teachers who are trying to organize these games in schools. And we've had teachers reaching out to us on Twitter, and we've been putting them on a list. So it's super awesome.
And with your permission, I think that could be a good time, maybe around the 200 mark.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was at 100 or maybe 150 where we did the song reveal.
Oh, yeah.
But I
150.
think around that time, we've talked about a couple of things. We've talked about getting the viewers, a little bit more involved in our stuff.
Yep.
And we talked a little bit about a little bit of the mystery regarding Otto. What I'd love to do is let you guys have some say or some insight into who his otherworldly patron
that's
is.
cool.
Now that's a great idea.
Maybe an existing one, if you're familiar with any of the D&D like lore of the multiverse, or certainly maybe something completely different. I'm open to it. My whole idea is that Otto himself doesn't fully know, and so I don't fully know. I don't think any of us fully
That's
know,
pretty
but
dope.
maybe once we hit 200, it would be great to have that be a time where a reveal happens.
That's really
if
cool.
you guys are open to that.
That's really cool.
Anyway, some food for thought.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's awesome. Yeah, we can definitely do that.
We'll think on that.
And all of the characters in the campaign, all of the player characters, except for Seville, Peter's character, that actually are from Faerun. So if you're thinking about ideas for Otto's patron, you can keep that in mind, or you can, create something new. Let's see. Mike, his story, 2010, playing edition 4E, edition 4, which I've heard is kind of rough.
I disagree.
It's
it gets
off and on. Yeah,
it gets
I never
crapped
played
on a
that.
lot, but
Okay.
I kind of liked it.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
cool.
know
I
Chad
shouldn't
likes
interrupt
it,
his story,
yeah.
but he created a charge barb, the 2-shot my DM's big bad evil guy. Immediately after that, initiated a home rule that we can't just start a fight. We need to role play first.
Huh.
Interesting.
That's cool. Yeah.
That's really cool. I like that.
That is a good. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's a
and then,
nice rule.
I'd be like, okay, I want to fight you.
Mike, I'd like to hear from you about 4th edition, because I never played it, but I just see people kind of rubbish it online, and
Yeah, that's going to happen with
with
pretty much
anything, I know.
every edition.
It's probably
And
like
Mike,
the people
while
who
you're-
split off on Pathfinder.
While you're formulating your
Right.
answer, I'll just say
3 is pretty amazing.
I think one of the reasons 5th edition has been so successful, they play tested it to such a gnarly level. Like I took part in a bunch of the play tests when they were doing D&D Next.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Which,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I mean, all you had to do was like sign up for it at the time. It wasn't like, but yeah, they would send you some materials, you would play them, and you would fill out a thing, and they got so much feedback, and you can really tell. I haven't played as many of the previous editions as a lot of people have. I played a lot of them, but you can really tell that they made an effort to be like, what are the best things from 2nd edition? What are the best things from 3rd? What are the best things from
That's
4th?
cool.
What are the things that aren't good about those? And they really tried to filter it into what I think you see in 5th edition. And I think that's why the like meteoric rise of the game, at least part of it, has happened. Is
It's a pretty tight system.
like if you're we've been talking a lot about DMing advice and stuff. If you don't have the Dungeon Master's Guide for 5th edition, it's an amazing book.
Yeah, it is.
It covers most of anything you could think of and probably more, so I can't recommend it enough. But I'm so curious to see what
No, Mike said that
about
he
4E.
He loved it.
Yeah.
And that he had some great stories from it.
There's some out there. All right, I feel you too, Mike. I really had some good memories with it, but yeah, some people not their cup of tea.
Killer Panda said it was rough. She said sorry, but it was rough.
I totally get that. A lot of people say that.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that.
And Killer, let's go back to your story. She said, Mine is really similar to Chad's, actually. I think we were playing 3E around 2004. Also, and I sort of snuck my way into this group of guys. They were rolling dice on this makeshift grid board during their free hour. I popped in for a number of sessions that year. First time DMing was 5E, actually, circa 2010. It was painful. Oh, I'm sure it was way better than you thought it was.
Awesome. And I'm glad you believed in yourself. And that's so important, because my story was that I was in a small town on the East Coast in Maryland, and already kind of like bored out of my mind and the total fish out of water. And there were two guys somewhere within like a 2-mile radius from where we lived who basically I heard were playing D&D, and they were kind of boys that were friends of my mom's friend or something. And I was like, hey, I heard you're doing that D&D thing. I want to play. And they're like, no, you can't. You're a girl. And I was like, what? Why? And they're like, you just can't. And I was like, ah. So
they're like, because we're too weird and we don't know how to hang out with you.
I mean,
I was like,
I don't know you guys, but if a girl walked up to if I were playing D&D as a kid and a girl wanted to play, I'd be like,
all about.
you want to?
I'd be suspicious, but I'd say
I know.
yes.
Are you here to make fun of me? But yes, you're welcome.
yeah, and he was a DM, and so I was like, shoot. And then I told my mom, I was
What
like,
a bummer.
I need to get this thing, and I bought this kit. And then it was just me in my room reading this whole thing, and I was like, I gotta roll a character. I need a DM. I need all this stuff. It's like, oh. So instead, I just read Choose Your Own Adventure books, like every single one I could ever find, and I would do every iteration you could ever do. So
This is
instead of just going
amazing.
through it
I
once,
never knew that.
I'd have like 7 fingers in it and a toe, so I could like double check every possible way I could have chosen, and I wouldn't put a foot down.
Cheating. Now,
is
where
explaining
have I
No,
seen
I wouldn't cheat the first
Azar
time.
cheating?
No, I wouldn't cheat the
before?
first time. I would just read it like 27 times.
No, you want every
possible
permutation
iteration.
of the story.
Speaking of that,
Yes.
just a little
Explains
segue
a
on
lot.
DM's Guild. There is
Yes, it does, Mike.
There is a rise of the solo DM stuff where you can just play by yourself.
Oh yeah, no, and actually pretty cool.
The interface is fantastic. I think it's called Solo
I
Adventures.
heard about that.
It's like a
and-
PDF that you just click.
Yeah.
You're like, do you want to do this?
All
And
the
you click.
hyperlinks, and I've done
Yeah.
about 3 or 4 of them and taken a
I've done-
character up to like level 5, and they're really fun and really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really tough. You have to really
Yeah,
be
it's
careful
true.
with your decisions.
I'm
but
sure.
if you don't have a DM, get one of those to play.
Just
and
to-
it's
just
a
to
heck of a
warm
lot
up
of
to
fun.
it, yeah, if
Yeah,
nothing
it's so
else.
fun.
Yeah.
It's really fun. It's like the Choose Your
Interesting.
Own Adventure books, but you got your character sheet, and it's really well done. They put a lot of work into it. It's fantastic. I like them a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So-
was wondering. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, what'd you?
I was gonna say, I feel like one great thing right now is that there's this moment where you could find this almost, craving for more human interaction and connection.
Yeah.
And so there are apps and ways to find people who are into D&D.
Totally.
And I was gonna ask the
yeah,
viewers if
Roll20.
you do feel that too, because I
UTT.
feel it is this resurgence of this wanting that connection. And
Yeah,
that's
as
part
we
of why
spend all of our time in
D&D
these
is
things,
so
you know?
cathartic for all of us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so healing is that we're actually
Which is why it's
dialing
so good
back,
for kids
slowing
too.
down, getting kind of retro, analog about things.
I agree.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not just
You're
me.
you're describing my feeling for sure.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just what you said. We do spend so much time on screens and on digital platforms these days that it really is a breath of fresh air to just be like, we're gonna play a game where you don't do that.
And I've always been a big gamer, video games. I love them. I played Star Wars Galaxies for years and Lord of the Rings Online and every
Love
shooter
Star Wars
game
Galaxies.
out there. Played them all. Love them.
Yeah.
But when I finally got a chance to play D&D, I was like, oh my God. You've played open world games, but you've never played an open world game like Dungeons and Dragons where you can literally do and take the story, not just do anything you want, like I want to climb that tree, I want to go that mountain, whatever. That's nothing compared to you can direct the story. I can choose where I want this adventure to go. I can explore things, and it's so powerful. And then Peter and I always talk about this because you look back on those memories from those games, and you see these epic movies in your head, not these little these. Even when we use terrain, I don't remember the terrain. I remember the epic vision that my mind creates for these things, and it's so. I mean, humans are powerful, and I just think
the mind
this game really kind of taps into that creative element in all of us.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And then, I'll tell my story really quickly because I basically
Yeah.
just did, but it's so similar to Azar's, which is really weird.
Huh.
I heard about D&D actually at a bookstore. I just like looking at books and fantasy books, and I saw these things. And I'm like, what are these super cool looking artwork on these little thin, they're modules. I didn't know anything about D&D. And so I would buy them and I would bring them home and I'd open it up and I'd be like, wait, what? There's this a little bit of information in grid paper. I'm like, I do not understand this at all.
Yeah,
and it literally
this novel got lame. It's all math.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, is this a cartographer set? What did I get here?
Please explain the basics of plot to this guy.
I was so bummed, and I didn't have any friends who played that game.
Yeah.
So I'm getting into this much later, which is why I'm trying to make up for my childhood of it, but I love it now. So
Yeah.
we had a question: how do we all know each other? So we
That's a
all
good
became
question.
we all became friends. Chris used to be on the show, so Chris is Azar's cousin, and so we had Chris. Chris did a series with Maddie, and so we met Maddie. Maddie and Chad are. Is that okay?
Yeah. We're an item. That's totally fine.
Yeah, they're together.
We don't talk about it much on the show, but for no bad reason. We've been dating for a number of years now, and it's funny. We actually met at one of Maddie's stand-up comedy shows.
Yeah, so this is
Me, you, and Chris way before
years
we
ago.
started doing.
That was when you met her?
That was when I met.
that's when
that's
Chad
when
and
you
I
met
met for the
Chad.
first
Yeah.
time.
Oh.
And I remember, I was like
after the
talking
show,
to
I
this
walked up to him and I
guy.
was like, "You're
marry
funny."
me.
We didn't talk about D&D, but we did talk about Star Wars. And I think
Yeah.
you were defending some of the prequel stuff. And I
Well,
was like,
hold on.
and I was like,
Before you make the internet hate me,
who is this clown?
hold on a moment.
I was saying at least there's some originality in there somewhere.
Well,
No, he actually had some good points because I remember agreeing with the points that you made. But at first I was like, I would never admit in public that there was
'cause
any.
I probably had liquid courage that night because no person should be out in public defending the prequels.
That's
But I think that what probably happened was there are some things that I do like about them, and I think all of you do if you just look deep down
I will
in
fess
there.
up. Yeah, I will fess up. I love
true.
seeing a lot
Yeah.
of the world.
Like I think even though it's
childlike
my least probably my least favorite one, and eventually we are gonna shut up about Star Wars, but Episode 1. I like the lightsaber duel at the end. I put that up to almost any other.
Yeah, I mean, well, we've never seen lightsaber.
If I watch
No,
that,
like that.
that's
Yeah.
right. And it's like I literally waited out front to get inside the theater at the midnight premiere. So I was in a very
sure.
primed.
So I lucked out because I had friends call me for Episode 1 saying, "Hey, we've been in front of the what at the time was the Man's Chinese,
Yeah.
where Star Wars premiered
Right.
in '77, and their buddy couldn't come, and so they had been there for like 24 hours or something, and I'm like, yeah, I'll come.
And it's the first Star Wars thing that happened in a very long time.
Oh yeah,
You
it
gotta
was
have
20
to kinda
years.
Go back and remember
it was
that.
20
no,
years.
it was
I mean,
so exciting.
But
And
then it was disappointing.
it was disappointing. It was.
kicked right in the
Super, okay, but you're right.
Okay.
You need to
So
rein in
anyways.
the Star Wars talk.
D&D.
But that's kind of
D&D Beyond.
that's how we kind of met. And then Alyssa is friends with these guys, and Alyssa
Yeah.
became part of our group as well. And
We've
so
mentioned before. Alyssa
And Jen
does
and I
a
have
lo-
known each other for.
Oh yeah, Peter and I, both writers, both working at Pete's Coffee here in LA for literally years, looking at each other like, hey,
Hey.
hey. And then finally, I don't know what.
I didn't know
don't-
this.
Oh yeah, and then finally you were reading a book or something,
I was reading.
Dragonlance?
No, R.A. Salvatore.
Oh yeah. And we started talking about
great
it.
novels.
Yeah,
But actually, I was like, I'm more a sci-fi
Halfling's-
guy than a
Right,
fantasy.
Halfling's Gem and all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So
the
we're-
Drizzt novels.
Dritz. Yeah.
And then,
oh, fantastic.
boom, we're like,
Yeah.
we
We
became best friends. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had
As
that
soon as we
moment.
just said, yeah, Alex friend, and then we see Star Wars, it was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Then we
Yeah.
started talking Lord of the Rings. It was
Right.
just like, it was off
Yeah.
to the races.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So.
And that was years ago. It was like, I don't know, more than 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how we all know each other. I probably missed a bunch of questions because we're all a lot of Star Wars.
Star Wars,
Chad,
Star Wars.
how
My
Mike.
D&D experience. I didn't get to tell mine.
Anyway, let's move on.
You
No,
did it?
I didn't, did I?
Be good.
No,
you
you're
did.
right. I know it, but you know, please.
Yeah. So I started with the red box.
The
about
red box.
82 or something
The
like
best.
that. I lived on the cul-de-sac. Guy down the street was.
Is that second edition?
Second edition, yeah,
Yeah.
3 or 4 years older, 3 years older than me, and he used to have the Ral Partha die-cast, like the
minis.
and he'd paint them, and they'd be these silver knights, and he'd do the dragons, and the dragons were about that big, and it was like, whoa! So he started
Yeah.
running for the neighborhood, the Dungeons and Dragons, and I was forget it. I was hooked.
What I love about that
Hooked.
is that is very much the spirit of Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson and the guys who were
Yes.
literally came from like wargaming and had invented the game.
Yeah.
That's basically what they were doing. They were like, hey, like let's get together, people in the neighborhood, like
Yeah.
let's hunker down and
Oh.
get into, it's I love that that's like how you got into it because that's
Yeah.
that's just
Like
so great.
after
It's like
school,
straight out of
we
Stranger
would.
Things.
It
Yeah,
was. We'd run over to
absolutely.
his house. There was like
Oh
5
my
of us.
God, that's what I wanted.
And then him as the DM, and he had a player character that he'd run with the group. We were all sleeping one night, camping out, and he went around and killed us all.
What do you mean killed us?
Okay, well that's rough.
In the game?
In the game, he
Why?
went
Well,
around
obviously in
and
the game.
sneak attacked. Yeah.
That's not allowed.
Sneak attacked and killed us. And that was the last
Everything's
time we
allowed.
played with them. And I think that was my first Spicoli. I was like, you dick.
Yeah, that's
And then
super
that was
messed
it.
Up.
Yeah,
That-
what is it?
I
He got
shall
drunk
not.
on power. It was like a
I
rage.
Yeah.
shall not mention his name.
You
Wow.
you should check
I
it
was
out.
like, evil
is
kid.
terrible.
If you guys
Yeah.
haven't seen it, it's
He did
kinda,
it.
I could
it's
see
kinda,
friendships ending over
He did.
that.
He stole all our magic items, and we were at the table like
Yeah, he sounds like a bully, but you.
we were like,
Wow.
I'm glad you fell in love with the game, but that's
Yeah,
weird.
no, then we
That's
just
terrible.
started.
A little
Yeah.
Two things real
opposite.
quick.
playing, yeah.
I would say if you can hunt it down, I think you could maybe find it even on YouTube or what. But there's this old documentary. I believe it's called The Dungeon Masters.
Not Mazes and Monsters.
Not that. No. Don't find that.
Satanic?
If you find that, don't watch
Don't
it because
watch
it's
that.
terrible. Unless you just
Oh,
really want
why?
to see Tom Hanks as a child.
Right.
Hi.
Oh.
But the Dungeon Masters documentary, it's about a bunch of people who started running the game from that sort of era and with
Yeah.
that. And the characters that get interviewed in that, I call them characters. They're real people, but they're
they're-
characters.
We were talking
One
about
guy
that
like
today.
owns like a store, like a comic book store. Who runs games, and he's a character. And I want to even say, before he became of some level of D&D royalty, the Dwarvenaut guy, he was featured in that documentary.
Oh.
So
the
Jordan Porter.
Is it Stefan or Steph?
I have no idea. I can't remember his
Yeah.
name, but
Yeah.
definitely
Jordan
if you're
Ford,
if
yeah.
you're interested in
Yeah.
that, like
Oh, that's cool.
backdrop of D&D
Oh,
that
it's-
What's it
Peter's
called? Do you know the
describing
name?
with. I think it's just called The Dungeon Masters.
Oh, I'll go check it out.
Come see if you can find it. But the other thing that I was
So
thinking of was, you were talking about like, what? They can't do
Oh.
that. And I love, like, one of the things that I think is really interesting to come across in D&D is betrayal. Like, sometimes because I think the DM has the tough responsibility to sometimes play a character who can betray you. And usually,
Yeah.
once they do it, it's like the characters never, the
True.
players never trust any other characters you play ever again from the rest of time playing.
Yeah, no.
But it's that's something that comes up that I always find really
That's never happened to
fascinating.
me yet, but that
Right, or it's a
would
good
wake
twist,
me
but
up.
not when you're like DM sneak attacks us
must,
all
right?
in the night. Yeah.
Eventually, because just like in real life, there are people who will betray you, and it's only natural that eventually it will happen in the game. But what's
Darn.
even crazier is like in one of the games I was running, it got to the end of a dungeon crawl, and there was like a boss that was like a demon who could tempt the party members basically with an offer, and you could tell that the demon was powerful, could take over your mind beyond what even the Mendeleal could. And so what basically happened was this demon confronted the party and told them, like, if you reject your gods, so some of them had worshipped, other gods, and you just bow down to me, I'll spare you, and you can serve me and keep you alive. And some of the party members were scared and were like, okay, and like threw away their holy symbols and went for it. And so some of the characters were like, no. And it was like literally some players were like,
Yeah.
sorry,
Guys,
bear
I
with
gotta
me
go.
here. Don't worry.
I'm so
I'll let you
sorry.
know how this ends.
Sorry to interrupt.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
basically, the party split, and some characters were like, literally, I want to go off on my own. I want nothing to do with these guys. And some were like, I'm getting in league with this demon now. And so
Oh my
instead
God.
of the DM betraying the trust of the players, it was like the players betraying the trust of each other.
Is that the end of the game?
Well, it's a long story from there. Long story short, I was so into it, and we were all so
Yeah.
gripped by it. They split off into 2 groups, and I started DMing 2 different groups
Wow.
who had
That's
gone their separate
fantastic,
ways. And one
yeah.
of them was like,
Dang.
Yeah.
I was like, so what do you guys kind of, we were
Crazy.
figuring out what's this group gonna be now, and they were like, well, we want to go find the others and kill them. We want to kill the other group for betraying us. And it just like, this whole story got
my
born out
God.
of like one boss encounter that I thought was going to be like, you guys will.
Standard, yeah.
And it ended up being like one of the gnarliest D&D
crazy.
like
That's cool,
experiences
yeah.
to date. So it's crazy. Like, I get what you mean. On the one hand, you're like, it sounds like really like hair-raising to like deal with that treachery aspect in the game because it gets into some deeper stuff. But I'm certainly was glad and entertained by the way that it happened in our game.
Yeah.
That dude just sounds like a jerk.
No, yeah, that's interesting because that's dynamics. You never know
All
what the
right.
players
Bye,
are going to
everybody.
do. This
See you
guy was
soon.
just.
All right,
Azar,
Thank you
thank-
for
you gotta
watching.
go?
I do.
Okay, no problem.
We're gonna go a
Sorry.
few more minutes, so if you finish, you can come back.
See you
But
later.
Yeah.
All right, bye for now.
bye.
But
Yes.
yeah, that guy was just a straight up loser.
Yeah. So I will say I have never experienced this personally, but to
Yeah.
hear about and this is obviously a super common thing to have a toxic element
Yeah.
at a table. I've been
Yeah.
kind of responding to like how would I handle it. We didn't really have a toxic element. We had somebody who had some issues at the game that Peter was running, the Strahd campaign.
Yeah, we did.
Just somebody who was basically cheating on her rolls.
On her rolls.
Oh, yikes.
And we
like
all,
on purpose?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
always, like never rolled anything under a 17.
Yeah, like
And
so.
Doesn't
and just
sound
like and
good at all.
no, and it was really just sad because
Yeah.
I'm like I always say like, and a lot of people say some of the best stories come out of rolling ones when you cannot roll a 1, you roll a
Yeah.
1 and you just like
So we
just go with
like
it.
everybody. I noticed it, and then everybody slowly started just emailing me or texting me, "Hey, do you know this? Hey, this and that." And I was like, "No, let's just wait. That's 2 people." And then you said it, and you're across the table, and you're like,
Yeah.
"I think," and I'm like, "No,
Yeah,
definitely is." So, but then confronted very gently, privately,
Privately
and then
tried
this
to
person
handle.
flipped out.
Oh,
was
that's a
like-
huge bummer.
And I was like, and I didn't go direct. I went around the way very gently. Hey, just noticing some of
With
the roles.
love, we
this-
tried.
yeah,
I mean, really to try, but I'd say, guys, if you have somebody who's toxic at your table,
yeah.
try to talk to them and see if there's something that's
Below
really
the surface.
that's really going wrong in their life, and maybe they need a friend. But if that
Yeah.
doesn't happen and they're not willing, then I'd say you have to remove those people because
Yeah.
this should be a safe space where you come and you have a great time and you get to
Yeah.
explore and try things. But if you have somebody who's bringing everybody down, then that game is tainted. I mean, I think people
Yeah.
use that word toxic for a reason, right? Because it really pollutes every the whole experience for everybody.
Yeah, because I don't mind an evil. And evil again, it's gray because the evil character doesn't think they're evil,
right.
Right.
and there's not the archetype evil. So like even like having a lawful evil character or something in the part, I don't even mind that.
Sure.
Because they usually, if they play it intelligently,
Yeah.
and maybe manipulatively, so it's not combative. When it gets combative, the table loses its spark. It denigrates. It just it goes
Totally.
to nowhere, and you lose sort of the respect of the table. But role playing, I don't mind different personalities at the table, but when it becomes someone's trying to sabotage, that's where the element of fun and joy and storytelling just goes right down.
And I think you guys have probably encountered, I think even in the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide and publications you'll see it elsewhere, it kind of describes the archetypes of some of the problem type players you might encounter, like
Yeah.
maybe the power gamer who's just so focused on trying to beat the game that they'll kind of step on everyone else's fun a little bit, and that
Sure.
little
Yeah.
things like that can creep up. Or I think if you're not familiar with any of that, if you're a player or you're a DM, it's worth taking a look because you'll be mindful of it and you'll probably have a better idea of just kind of like how to maneuver around it. If it comes up in your game, but hopefully not. Certainly, I'm happy that with us, we don't have to worry about that.
No,
It seems
oh my God, it's you guys are such a good group.
Yeah.
We have a little bit more time, so
Check
if you
your
guys,
backpack.
What?
if you have any questions, throw them out there. It's funny, somebody had asked to hear from the backpack. That backpack has a carabiner on it. It's got a story.
Oh, it does have a story.
Yeah.
This carabiner is from Beats audio headset that came with it.
Oh, yeah.
And this
Nice.
little piggy that went to market.
I wouldn't trust your life to it.
No, but this carabiner is the real deal.
Yeah,
And
it looks
it's
pretty
just,
legit.
And it's my keychain.
There you
I
go.
just hook it on there, and just so I don't jingle and knock and cause noise. So
There you go. Yeah,
And then the rest is just my stuff from the game.
cool.
Just
All right.
just relics.
You
from
guys
the
want
role players.
backpack questions? You got backpack answers. All right.
That's right.
There you go.
Ask and you shall receive it.
It's a Patagonia backpack.
We're doing a tell-all
I got
here.
it about 2 years ago, and it's pretty cool.
Message stepping in on set.
What's happening?
Oh boy. A standby technical question.
Okay.
I'm happy to say not technical difficulty. You guys,
Maybe if you want, I mean, we can wrap up if you.
yeah,
need.
no, it's okay. This is something. Why don't you guys talk? Let's
Sure. Is there any more questions in the chat? 'Cause
Yeah,
otherwise,
and how many
there are
people are
some
here?
things
Yeah.
that I
We'd love to.
no, I don't think so.
I could do this all night.
I will say goodbye.
Yeah.
He's already left. Timmy said goodbye to us, and then I had to jump out. And I missed
all right.
it, but
Okay.
Well,
Timmy,
if
I hope you're
happen
getting
to
some
watch this
sleep.
back.
Carry on
See you,
our
Timmy.
work.
And thanks for always checking in with us, man. It means a lot. One of the things that I've thought about is getting a little bit more back to connected to our Anachrony campaign. And I notice sometimes the new viewers who come in and maybe are catching up with the campaign, they'll ask or they'll wonder, hey, like, what are these characters up to? Like, what are they, trying to do? What is, like, the quest right now? And I think it's a good thing to maybe, like, talk about here in this forum where we're not in the immediacy of the game playing our characters is a good way to, like, catch you guys up to speed. The first thing that I would say in that regard is, remember that we literally got sucked into this new world that we didn't, or at least most of us, I don't know about you, didn't really know existed or know we were going to certainly be coming to. So if you imagine that, there's definitely a sense of like seeking purpose in different things. And for my character Otto, he's trying to get back to his home where he means something, where he has status, where he's comfortable. But yet at the same time, while he wants to do that, part of his fear is that he hasn't lived up to the expectation of what's expected of someone of his, noble status back home. So ironically, being trapped here might give him a chance to, along the way to find his way back, come back with,
Almost like Peter,
some prestige. Yeah, well, don't worry about it. I think I've explained all of this in character too.
Yes, yeah.
But for those of you who maybe don't know, Otto's been pretty candid about his motivations.
That's true.
That's actually a good thing to bring up in general. I think I would love to hear more about you. I know given your character and his secret dealings, there's probably not as much as you can say. But I would love to hear more about your character's motivations and how that's factoring into the campaign and finding the commonality in what we all want to do. Because I've noticed I can't be in the chat all the time, but every once in a while I've noticed people kind of wondering that. And so I thought maybe it'd be a good thing to talk about while we're here now.
Yeah, I'll say up just the point of the show and the episodes we've gone through is Seville was sent to Faerun as just to mislead rumors of Anachrony.
Right.
So rumors of a lost continent were popping up on Faerun, and Seville just graduated from the academy, and his first assignment was off Anacroli to Faerun. And as I mentioned before, Anacroli it's very sheltered as far as information, and then Judd can, obviously knows more about
I'm
this.
like, I'm sitting here like super nervous.
Right. No, but
I'm like,
I've said this before.
Yeah.
To you,
Okay.
so I'm
And
not.
this is really for the benefit of you guys.
So I'm not sharing
I
anything.
need somebody to throw at you in case you.
So I haven't.
This is heavy.
I'm not saying anything I haven't done before, but yes, because I said he was stationed in Faerun, and I think the last episode he had a very giddy reaction to being able to do a spell, and with Erised grabbing the spell that he had found, and he was so excited because that kind of information is not, and the accessibility that doesn't exist on Anacroli as it does on Faerun, that you can access this and sort of. It was his first time out of the structure of the academy, and so he was there to do a job. He did it. He's a solo operator. He does not travel with groups. He does it himself.
So he's having to learn on the fly to play well with others.
Right, or how to first try. It's like a bit of trust. And coming here, it's there wasn't a lot of intel on you guys.
Yeah.
Coming to the ship, as he had to rush and get on it, but he knew about this whole thing. So traveling together, and then realizing, I think, on the show where I was very distrustful of coming back to Anacroli because of the treatment. Even though I knew it was going to happen, the treatment that Seville received, there was a bit of apprehension. And also, he had been free and to do whatever he wants. So coming back now to structure was still a little like resistant.
Makes sense.
And rebellious. So Seville always had an idea of, no, I'm not bringing these people, Otto and the group, you guys, to where they want you to go. So, but then interacting with all of you guys was very difficult because Seville is like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be with them or not. I don't know if I'm going to get reassigned.
I think that was something interesting is like when we first met as a party, outside of being captured basically together, we didn't have any bonds between our characters other than the fact that we were in captivity together. So
so I played it like that.
Right.
Distant.
And I did too. I literally left you guys.
Correct.
Because I was like, they don't even seem as powerful
you don't have
as
any
this
loyalty.
other group.
Yeah.
No, and
Right.
it was great that we had that. It wasn't a distrust of each other, but there's no Seville was like, we got to go this way, and it's like, I don't even know who you are. I'm going my own way.
Right. Or these guys seem like they had more power here.
Correct.
They were able to break us free of the guard.
Yeah.
You guys are just some, as far as I know at the time, just some dodos who were captured.
Right.
So if I'm Otto and I'm thinking he's a power player, who can I find at the top so that I can warm up to them? Obviously he'd ditch you guys and go for them. Now, obviously that didn't work out too well for him or Tabitha. If you haven't, online is our solo adventure.
It's really fun.
Or misadventure, rather. But yeah, I think that's kind of what I was getting at, is I think, we've been so in the throes of trying to get from place to place and get our quests done, and often we're in the heat of action during a lot of the sessions you guys watch. I just kind of thought it'd be nice to take a little step back and talk about the backdrop, which might have been lost on some of you guys as viewers, and kind of remind you how we came together as a party, which wasn't an imperfect process as we're describing.
No, which was, I think, great.
Or which was an imperfect process,
right? Because there's been tension almost until, I guess, sort of the last brawl, that brawl in the alleyway in Vordiv.
In Vorden,
Yeah, Vorden, and then we were put in. We were
that was a
locked
turning
up.
corner, a turning point for you guys as a group. Really saw a difference from that point on. The way that you all started acting like one unit, as one adventuring party.
Right.
I think we realized that we haven't really made many friends outside of each other. And even if if all the characters don't consider the other characters friends,
Right.
we know that they're not necessarily enemies who would sell us into slavery
Yeah.
or captivity or kill us.
Right.
And that's something we can't say for most of the other people that we've come across here.
That's true.
So I
Right.
think at the end of the day, that context has brought the party together, but it's a little bit different than I think how, other parties might develop their bond. So hopefully that's clarifying, interesting
and
for
you know,
guys.
so a lot of you, if you didn't see the first episode, it's not available because when we aired
we
it,
were new.
we were new, and nobody hit the button to record either on our computer or on Twitch. So it's the lost episode. But
They got lost in that storm.
yeah, that storm really sucked it up. But it was cool. I wanted something very cinematic to start the story because, again, as being a writer, you don't have the information. You only have a visual to start with. So you start with a strong visual, and you guys were, on a boat in the ocean at a storm with this huge storm wall up ahead, and having to go through something that was clearly not natural, and you really were thrown together, which.
Yeah.
I didn't really realize at the time, my mind, I'm like, I didn't want to do they all meet at a tavern and go from there,
Yeah.
So, let's do something different. But it created a very interesting dynamic that you guys didn't have any loyalty to each other. You didn't know that this guy was from Anacrally, which I thought was an interesting kind of
Well, it didn't
twist.
take us long when he was like,
No.
we once we learned that was definitely a fun little reveal.
Yeah, which we had played around with, or maybe I played around with, I'm not even sure, because I'm trying, we don't coordinate anything, Peter and I, or any of the players, off camera, but I had thought, I wonder if he's going to reveal who he is, or just play it for a long time and keep that secret, but it came out pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, I think it had to because, right away, so he had to identify himself to Ivel, Captain Ivel.
Well, even
and
before
the
that, because
Crown,
when you're
but-
on the ship, and
when he had to confront the captain.
Well, and you had
yeah.
let off your flare.
the
flare.
And it was
when
like,
the ballista,
okay, something's going on
arcane
here.
ballista started firing.
Right at the command of the flare, and so
Yeah.
there was tips.
yeah,
I was wondering if, it's gonna be saved for so
yeah.
long. But I mean, you have to give way to the story and how it bends and twists and go with it. But I thought it was fascinating that it's been very organic because we've bonded only because we've gone through experiences, not because we say, well, we're at the table together, we have to bond. Like our characters have to bond because we're on a.
No.
It's like no, we've been true to our.
We've
No,
saved
which is-
each other's lives. Like
Yeah.
one of the
Yes.
things that I really liked
Yeah, for sure.
in the campaign
Yeah.
was in that aforementioned sneak away that Otto and Tabitha did that ended up working against them. It was, the rest of the party that came and saved them. And that really, even for somebody who tends to be pretty selfish like Otto, really put in him guilt and a sense of obligation that, like, I probably never would have done that for them.
Yeah.
But now that they've done it for me, like, it makes him want to. And that ended up happening with Seville when he got
Right.
teleported away.
Yeah.
Some of you hopefully will remember if you watched when he
Yeah.
used the magical artifact we found that sort of made him vanish and reappear in a not so safe place. You might even say a place overran with zombies, where that sort of he had a chance to cash in some of that karma. And I think all that was cool to see unfold.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
and Fane's Pomp asked if characters had motivation for being on the ship in the first place, and yes, they did. So the setup was basically that there was a ship's captain who was talking to people in a pub in Faerun and kind of going around telling this story of the lost continent and trying to convince people to come adventure with him.
And for Otto's character, like I said, he was looking for ways to have some fame and prestige, something to write a bard's tale about,
Yeah.
or a song or a poem. So he fancies himself as a sort of Renaissance man in that way. So the lost continent.
I mean-
that sounds right up his alley.
Yeah.
Little did he know what he was getting himself into. But when Judd described that, it was pretty easy for me to find a way to hook my character into that. And I think that was probably the case with the others.
Yeah,
as
so
well.
everybody had signed up as an adventurer with this captain, and most people thought he was kind of insane, but then you saw that he was extremely wealthy. He had this beautiful ship was really well crewed, and you're like, well, there's a chance that this will actually, this is a good risk. Let's take this. And so that's how everybody came together on that ship. And the captain was very odd. He locked everybody in their rooms during the voyage. He wanted everybody to stay kind of out of the way of the sailors, and that he would take them off the ship when they...
Not find out about the Eladrin that he had trapped in a box and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We don't know if that was him or...
We still don't know what
there was
also
a piratey guy on that ship, if you remember.
I don't.
Yes, I clearly don't.
But because somebody put her in there.
Because you guys were all poisoned.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's how we actually started the episode, was Seville waking up on the ground, poisoned. Although I don't think any of you realized very quickly that you had been poisoned.
Very Metal Gear Phantom Pain-ish, if I dare say.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
In a great way.
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool start. That was, I mean...
I'm bummed we've lost that episode, but...
Yeah.
Well, many more to come.
Yes, indeed.
I don't know, is there any more questions? I've enjoyed this, guys, but...
Yeah, me too. I want to say hello to Vaping Fluffy, who we haven't seen in a while. He is fighting the flu right now, so Fluffy, man, I hope you feel better.
Buddy, yes. Lots of fluids.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of fluids. He's trying that with whiskey. He's going to kill it all with whiskey.
Sure.
There you go.
I think it works. So guys, we're going to probably wrap this up. So if you have any last things or shouts out, let us know. Otherwise, we appreciate every single one of you.
Yes.
This was a lot
of fun.
Yeah, we want to do more of this.
Good questions. I liked it.
This was kind of impromptu because we also wanted to test to make sure our equipment was all fixed. Everything's perfect.
Fine.
Great.
And so we'll do this again with everybody. Alyssa wasn't available tonight. She just got back from traveling, and Maddie had an audition or something, I think, right? Or
she just had a prior engagement, and she spent half the other day at the DMV, so fun times.
Yeah, fun day for her. Yeah, so we'll do this again soon. We'll let you know what's happening on Saturday. But look out for some other cool stuff coming your way from us. And
very much.
Yeah.
Did Vape just come in?
A lot of people want to sell Otto in an episode.
They want to
sell you into slavery.
Sell me? You couldn't afford it. He fetches way too high.
That's true. Yeah, he's quite expensive.
Yeah, one drop of his noble blood is just beyond.
Well, we did have a. Well, I don't know if I.
Yeah, someone's tried. A necromancer managed to succeed in just that.
I don't know if we can say that. No, I guess we can't.
Don't say it.
No, we can't.
If you're not sure, don't say it.
Yeah, no.
No, you're right. But yeah, you actually have been sold already.
Yeah.
Yes, you were sold at the Shade Trade at the Shadow Market.
Yeah, and I only to.
That was a cool fight, by the way. That was a real cool fight.
Oh yeah, when we took down that necromancer.
No, the fight in the Shade Trade.
I don't think we were there.
No, you weren't.
We were on the
your
trail.
way to come and save us.
Yeah, we were following the trail, but
there
was a pit fight that they threw Seville in, and I could only take one weapon. And then
that was pretty cool.
Azar busted in and jumped down.
Yeah, everybody fought to get into the pit.
Yeah,
and,
that was probably during that time so far. Has been the low point of Otto's mustache grooming.
Yeah.
When he
that
was
rough.
When he was
that was all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember Aricette buying bee wax for you?
I do.
I mean, that's where you start to see those friendships really start to build. It was pretty cool.
Yes.
Indeed. Yeah.
Otto's portrait is.
Yeah.
Coming.
Oh yeah,
more good things to come.
We have artist portraits coming. We have other fun things. So
let's see.
We're gonna wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. We'll see you Saturday, one way or another. We'll be here Saturday. Hopefully.
Hopefully we'll all be here. We'll let you guys.
I don't know if I want to hope for that. So.
Yeah. Right.
Because there's cool things that are in the works that would prevent the normal episode, but we would still be here and we'll have something really cool for you. So again, we love you guys. We'll see you Saturday.
Jump over to Killer Panda. I think she's streaming.
Oh yeah,
now. Right?
She's still in chat. Killer, are you gonna go stream right after this? So make sure that we can send people over to you.
Yeah.
Nope, she's done for the night. Never mind.
Okay, so don't go over there.
We'll do whatever you want in that case, guys.
Hold on, there's somebody just joined with one question. Can
do
we?
it.
You got time?
Yeah, one quick question.
Do it.
So it's Psycho Sam.
Hey, Psycho Sam.
Hey, Psycho Sam.
Hi,
You
Psycho
old psycho, you.
We've kind of skirted around this question, but we haven't really talked about it. Favorite edition?
Purple.
He's just starting out. or he, she.
Oh my
talked
gosh.
about
Sam
it-
is just
we
starting
talked
out.
about it a little bit a minute ago.
Yeah.
Mine is honestly 5th edition. Like I said, I think
Yeah.
the rigorous play testing that went into it, the pulling from all the other editions, and really earnestly trying to be like, what were the best parts of the others? 4th edition is definitely them being like, hey, MMOs are pretty popular. What if we make like D&D be kind of like that? It's very much kind of that. I think 3rd edition and 3.5 are very crunchy to the point that it can frankly be a little nauseating.
Yeah, it's real crunchy.
This is all just my personal
I liked
opinion.
it, but it's crunchy.
I've played and enjoyed all these editions. This is just my take on it.
Yeah.
And the other editions, those are laying a lot of the
Yeah.
foundation, the groundwork. 5th edition is a great addition, Sam, to get started and to get into the game. I recommend it.
It has a big amalgamation of all of. You'll find it in all the different editions, and also it also I guess for starting out, 5th edition would be fantastic. A lot of content, a lot of great older modules that from 2nd edition that are brought up to 5th edition that you can still play and enjoy the old nostalgia. But a lot of it is connected also to the emotions of when you started and stuff. But
Sure.
And
I
you know-
agree with Chad.
And I forgot.
5 is pretty awesome.
Jamie, by the way, joined us, and I forgot to say a shout out to Jamie. So
Oh, hi, Jamie.
Hey.
We've been talking in the chat, but I haven't said it on the stream. So hi, Jamie. Thank you.
Hello,
she is traveling for
hello.
work and checked into her hotel and jumped on. So that is dedication, and
Keeping
we
you
appreciate
company.
it.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
But she also made a great point that D&D Beyond is a 5th edition service, and it
Yeah.
makes it so easy for starting out. And I know we had some old school people who were really into
Right
paper,
here.
who were a little
Did not want to part
resistant.
with my paper.
Did not want to part with
Look,
this
paper is it's awesome.
It is a very.
It's awesome.
You have to. I mean, at some
But
point,
when you
should
stream,
try it.
the interaction with
Yeah.
the fans popping up this. It
Yeah,
makes it
that's
easier.
so
And
for
just
sure.
make
them.
it so easy.
Yeah.
I mean, I always think of just hitting that long rest, and because we have some
Yeah.
people, Maddie and Azar don't
That would
have a
be
long
hard
history with D&D,
for them getting on.
Yeah, it's a lot
character
easier to
sheets.
click a button and it kind of
Yeah.
resets things.
and it shows you what to
Not
do.
having a
Like,
computer is good, and flipping through books when you need it. I think I'm bringing books on Saturday just to.
I've been
look through
meaning to
them.
put my books out here for that same
I'll
reason.
tuck 'em
I mean,
in.
I always
You guys
just
wanna bring
quickly
some books?
Google
Let's bring some
things.
books.
You guys want to bring some books? Okay.
Let's bring some books.
Chad's like, I can bring some books.
I'll bring some books if you guys want to bring some books.
Let's do it.
I
Let's
get into
do it.
this.
Yeah, let's do some books.
Right on, guys.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for popping in for that question.
Yeah, definitely. And
It's 5th edition. You can get the starters kit, usually for really cheap. I would say if you can.
There's a
try
great
to find it.
module in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, that module's supposed to be
Lost Mines
great.
of Fendelver. It's very fun.
Fendelver.
that or the
Fantastic.
Ice Spire. What's
And
the
if
new one?
any-
That's what that comes with the starter kit, the new starter kit.
Yeah.
Supposed to be great.
If
Ice-
anybody's
yeah.
looking
That's
for
an
a
old one,
good
Oh, it is?
Dragons
introductory
of Ice Spikes.
adventure to run, a while ago, a buddy of mine basically had the same question, and he was like, "Hey, Chad, I know you've DM'd a lot. I really wanted to indulge him, so I took a adventure that I wrote that were just notes that I made for myself, and I kind of went back and tweaked them to turn it into like an instructional more type adventure module, which I sent to him. If anybody really wants something like that, please get in touch with us through our socials. I'd be happy to send it to anybody.
Oh, yeah, that's super cool.
It might be something that I eventually even put up on like the DMs Guild.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anyone needs suggestions or anything like that, you want to run the game, you need some ideas or you need some tips, please don't hesitate to ask. I think
Yeah.
we'd all be happy to help.
Oh my gosh,
Oh, yeah.
yes. And then check out, as Chad just mentioned, DM's Guild, because there's fantastic contributors there. A lot of well-known contributors. I love MT Black. Is a great one there. Chad has put stuff up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check out his stuff. And just a lot of resources available for some pretty creative minds. So
Oh
support,
my God, the stuff on there is so
yeah,
cool.
support
Absolutely.
local D&D writers and contributors. It's one big community, so just touch it all and have fun.
Yeah.
Great way to sum it all up,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, here. So, all right, guys, we'll see you Saturday.
See you next time, guys.
Thanks again.
Yes.
Really appreciate it.
Woo! Roll 'em
Bye.
high, roll 'em high.